Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by Caleb and Sawyer. How you guys doing today?
I am doing.
I'm doing good.
Great.
All right. We are very close to Thanksgiving right now. It's an exciting time to be alive. We're also close to Black Friday, and we'll have some recommendations for you towards the end of the show. So look forward to that. But first, we're gonna dive into some news, and then after that, we're gonna go into some topics we have for today. The first thing I wanted to talk about was some Wonder Woman news. Sawyer, would you give us the details, the breakdown on what's happening with Wonder Woman this year?
Yeah, so the big news that came out recently, I believe actually, I don't know who broke it, but I first saw it from Caleb, and then I saw it later on Gal Gadot's Instagram page, actually. But the news was that Wonder Woman 1984 will be releasing simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max on December 25th. It will
Which
be
is
which is pretty big deal. It's
Yeah.
pretty big deal. I think it's a smart move from HBO's marketing division, but I also think this really causes a hit for theaters.
yeah.
I think I can tell you that even though they haven't said it, I'm sure the theaters are not happy. This is going to cause a real big dent to the theaters, and I think this could finally be. I don't want to say like, oh, this is what kills theaters, but with Wonder Woman being literally the only major release, as far as I know, that was slated for Christmas, to now have it available to just stream at home, that means that a lot of theaters are going to miss out on because I mean, even if we're in lockdown, a lot of families would still go together to go to the movies. I used to work at a movie theater, and Christmas, when I would work on Christmas, was always so it's not surprising to me that Wonder Woman going to HBO could put a very big dent in the theaters, and that's going to cost them a lot of money. I could see
Here's
it
my
really
thing, though.
putting some under.
Here's my thing, though, because I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Here's my opinion. I think, I think theaters were faced with this very specific ultimatum here, and I think that with Wonder Woman and the way things have been going, the way cases have been surging, I think without that, I think theaters, Warner Brothers was very much faced, and theaters was very much faced with an ultimatum of like, this is probably going to get delayed again. And
like if we commit to putting it out on theaters, you mean?
yeah, if they commit to it being out on theaters, it's probably going to get delayed. And theaters are probably like, well, we need some form of revenue this year. You know what I mean? They need some form of it. And I think it's better for them to have gotten a little bit of revenue from Wonder Woman than to have it delayed into the next year. Because that was basically what it was at that point. And, well, I personally think the best move would have been to have Wonder Woman release in theaters 2 to 3 weeks early and then move it to HBO. That way it gives a little bit of an exclusivity to it. But I think I think people are like, for the general movie-going audience, not like I think movie fans are going to go out and go see Wonder Woman. I think people are craving to go see a movie theater. It's almost become like this time of thing that people miss it. You know what I mean? So and not everybody has HBO Max, and they may be like, well, I don't see myself investing in HBO Max, but I haven't gone to a movie in a while, so they may feel like come Christmas time, that might be one special thing that they do. I think this was probably the best move they could have done. given the circumstances that they're in. I don't think that every movie should do that, and I definitely think that if they did that with every movie, then the theaters are like in trouble. But
Yeah.
I think I've been saying this for about a couple of weeks now that studios need to at least throw the theaters a bone. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that this is them throwing that bone. That's just my opinion. You may disagree.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some good points there. I think it is good to them. Like, I think it's better for the theaters to have some sort of revenue than none.
Yeah,
I also
something is
think
definitely better than nothing.
I do think, however, though, that I don't think the reasoning for putting it, like, I do think lockdown is kind of, I mean, to briefly mention, I don't want to really go into politics, but to briefly mention it, I think with a new president in January, with the possibility of another lockdown facing us with that,
Yeah.
that would have meant that Wonder Woman, if it did get delayed past Christmas, would be delayed for presumably at least another 4 months if that happened.
Well, and even forgetting like any governmental lockdowns, like the numbers that we're seeing now
Mhm.
are not encouraging.
No.
And I think so for me it's kind of like, I guess my take is, I think, closer to Sawyer's, where I don't necessarily see like, actually I think maybe my take is just totally different. I see kind of a situation where like nobody is going to the theaters on Christmas Day anyways, and Wonder Woman being released there is nice, and you might see some numbers, but I think more than that, I think Wonder Woman is getting released on HBO Max because they just wanted to get that movie out the door, and like move on to other things. Because the fact is that this movie was supposed to come out months ago. It didn't, for obvious reasons, and and they just want an out. They just want to release the movie, have it be in the public eye for a while, get some more HBO Max subscriptions, because now I'm like 20 times more likely to get one than I was a week ago.
It's very
even though
much
I'm still not gonna get one, but like,
it's very much a Tenet situation.
yeah, but they don't have the wishes of a directing giant
Yeah.
backing their theater release. So it's sort of like Patty Jenkins, is that her name? Yeah.
Patty Jenkins.
She does not have the same kind of like pull that somebody like Nolan has. Just because I think she hasn't been directing. She's not yet a name the way that Nolan is. And I don't even think she cares that much about whether or not it's getting released in theaters. With Nolan, at least, it was kind of like he expressed a very serious sort of faithfulness to wanting to release it in theaters, whereas something like this probably just doesn't have that.
Well,
so
I think that's I think that's the key thing here is with HBO and Warner, because there's also where we were, because in July we weren't nearly as bad case-wise as we are now. We hit another surge again. I think if it wasn't for Chris Nolan, I do think that Tenet probably would have gone to.
Yeah.
Actually, I think if it had come out when it was originally supposed to, rather than getting pushed, then I think we would have possibly seen it, because it.
I agree.
There was an initial push, wasn't there? Like, wasn't it supposed to come out in? It was supposed to come out in like July, but it got pushed to, was it late August or something like that? Because I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't think it came out in July.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out like.
Or it was September when it came out, wasn't it?
No, I think it was no. What happened was they pushed it to August. It was supposed. Yeah, I think you're right. It was supposed to release in July, but then they pushed it to August. And there was a weird thing where they were releasing it in theaters like a week ahead of the U.S. because the U.S. hadn't really gotten it together. Because
Yeah, I
like it
just looked it
wasn't
up.
as safe in the U.S.
It was August 26th in the UK, September 3rd in the US.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, and then it didn't do nearly the numbers that WB
I
wanted it to.
I think that's the key thing is like WB really had Nolan in the corner of the theaters, really wanting it to put it that way. If they didn't, I think Nolan would have probably gone, or Tenet would have probably gone to HBO.
Yeah.
But I think the key thing with Wonder Woman here is Patty Jenkins doesn't have the same, like you said, the same willingness as of Nolan to stick by the theaters.
Well, and she
Or-
doesn't necessarily care either. It's not
Yeah,
her
which is
like
yeah, and she doesn't need to. I mean, it's not
yeah.
necessarily her job.
She's
And
getting paid either way.
yeah, so and I think with Wonder Woman, I also think the audience for these two of these movies is different. While there
Yeah.
is still the film fans, Tenet is really made for the people like you and me, I guess,
Mhm.
like the film students. Whereas or the people who are going to go to those types of movies are the type of people who would go to the theater. The type of people
Yeah.
who are going to see Wonder Woman, if it's like DC fans, for example, probably already have HBO Max. If
Yeah.
you're a family, which a lot of families are going to want to watch this movie, HBO Max again has a lot of content here. This is a big push to get subscribers. Even if a lot of people unsubscribe after watching the movie, you're still probably going to have at least some retention of viewers
Yeah.
afterwards, which is going to be good when they head into the Snyder Cut and get even more.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and that initial and like they will presumably charge you up front still for
Well, you mean for the
like-
movie or just for the subscription?
for the subscription. So
Yeah.
so like there's not a what was I what's the so like they're still making money.
Oh well, yeah. I'm just saying, like we saw with Disney Plus, for example.
Yeah.
Like when there was a report recently, I don't remember the exact percentage, but I think it was something like 40% of subscribers unsubscribed last year after Mandalorian ended, but then resubscribed in November of this year when it started up again.
Which Disney is certainly happy about.
Yeah, so I think that, but that's also something, even if there was a significant portion that unsubscribed, there were still, like, if it was 40 that unsubscribed, that's still 60% retention of people who stayed on after the season ended.
Yeah.
Including myself, even though I'll use myself as this example. Once Mando ended, there wasn't anything that I was watching on Disney Plus until the Clone Wars started up. And after the Clone Wars ended, I pretty much was just paying for it, even though I didn't use it until this month when Mandalorian started.
Yeah.
So I think that even if they don't get a ton of people who stay on after December, or I guess it would really be in January if we're talking a month after, it would it still gives them a lot of exposure. And even if a lot of people unsubscribe the following month, there's still a high chance that a lot of people will stay on once they see all the other content on there, especially DC fans. I mean, if you look at the DC catalog on there, especially now that all of the DC shows from DC Universe have moved over, aside from like Swamp Thing and Stargirl, all the other shows are on there now. You got Titans.
Stargirl comes December 1st.
Okay, so yeah, there's that. I don't know what's going on with Swamp Thing, but that's and maybe something happened with that I didn't know about. But I think that's on something with CW now.
I think the one thing that we need to I think we can all agree on is that at least they're not pulling a Mulan.
Yes.
Oh, that's I think the big play here. We're going to see which one is more successful. If they pull more viewers for Wonder Woman, then, well, they're also in a different position, I guess, because while Disney Plus is a new service, it has the name Disney in the service. So you're going to pull the families who want streaming service for their kids. Disney Plus is going to be that by default.
Yeah.
HBO needs the exposure
Mhm.
and the subscribers because they don't have the. I mean, they have a lot of subscribers, but they don't have the same subscriber base as something like Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh.
They haven't released official numbers, but
I
I'm
guarantee
assuming.
that this is going to be way more successful.
Oh, I think so too. Mulan was a. I also think it's going to help that I believe the movie itself is going to be more critically successful than Mulan was.
That's true.
Oh, certainly.
I think a better movie combined with the fact that all you got to say is how much is HBO? It's like $15 a month, like that.
Yeah.
So you just say pay $15 for 1 month. You can watch it as many times as you want, show as many people as you want, and you've also got all this other content rather than asking people to pay $8 a month for Disney Plus, and then on top of that, asking to pay $30 for what is essentially a rental.
Mhm.
Like that's going to be for a movie that already itself wasn't that great. So I think this is going to be a really big success, not only for WB in getting subscribers for Warner, but I think it's going to get more exposure for the actual film itself. And you also are able to keep the theaters happy by having it out in theaters to at least get some cash, because some cash is better than no cash. And
Yeah.
I assume in the countries where it's already, where the virus is already starting to lessen, like in, I think New Zealand's doing pretty good. So I haven't looked at all what countries are doing great right now, because we ourselves are not. But yeah, I think an international release combined with at least as far as I know, domestic HBO release is a really good idea and pretty much benefits every party and is a big screw you to Disney.
Yeah.
So I think it works all the way around.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say, if this is successful, I do think it is a high probability that Black Widow follows the same model, especially with like with Disney Plus needing content, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe, was delayed because they weren't able to shoot in Budapest. That really leaves once Mando ends, that leaves WandaVision, presumably in I think January is when it starts, and if Black Widow, they said, oh yeah, by the way, the same day as the finale of WandaVision, we're putting up Black Widow on January, I don't know, 31st or something like that.
That's also a movie that people or that Disney definitely wants to push out the door, but just like can't find a good.
Well, and
way
they need to, because if they don't, that's going to start to screw with the timeline of the MCU.
It
So
will.
they've got to get it out sooner rather than
You know, it's good that they did that 5-year time gap.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's also the benefit of Black Widow being a prequel.
Yeah.
Is you can kind of get a little bit of leeway in there.
Yeah.
Whereas, even though, despite maybe there's some plot threads in there with a post-credit scene that we don't know about, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while this is all happening, Sony's already going ahead and shooting Spider-Man right now.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's move on to the last news item we are going to discuss. I'm going to pull up the Gematsu page for this because always happy to support my favorite favorite gaming news organization, whatever that means anymore. Did you guys see the Kotaku PS5 review, by the way?
No,
I didn't.
Okay, don't look at it. It's an absolute travesty of an article.
I thought GameSpots was pretty good. I watched GameSpots.
Yeah, IGN's was pretty good too. I think it's kind of weak sauce that they didn't commit to naming one of the consoles better than the other, but that's.
Well, I also thought on IGN's it was a little bit like, why, when like at least it was like a 6-minute video and like a third of that was committed to talking about how they didn't like the design of the actual outside of the system,
which is the most useless thing you could possibly talk about.
Like, we all have our opinions on what it looks like, but I would much prefer hearing how it forms
Yeah.
than what it looks like, and we all know what it
Which-
looks like.
I will definitely avoid talking about how I feel about its aesthetics when I get to it. All right, let's. But yeah, the Game Awards. I just went to the website because I couldn't find the article on Gamatsu. So we're going to skip the esports stuff and the content creator stuff just because.
We don't know a whole lot about that.
Yeah. But yeah, the Game Awards announced their nominations for this year. I am also happy to announce that we will be doing another watch party for the Game Awards this year. Obviously, we won't be in the same room like we were last year, but
I think it's going to work out good, though. I actually almost
Yeah.
think this is going to work out better because the way we're going to do it is we're going to probably do it like we did with the Xbox and PlayStation showcases this year, and do our reactions there because it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of cool stuff shown, a lot of exciting just moments in the show. I'm hoping for some like actually good live performances this time. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, so we're just gonna go through the list. We don't really have time to do a full like prediction thing. We'll just have some fun doing that on the actual night itself. But yeah, let's go through this. So best debut game. This is for the best debut game created by a new indie dev. So Carrion, Mortal Shell, Raji, an Ancient Epic, Roki, and Phasmophobia. Just so you know, I voted for Phasmophobia because I didn't play any of these games, and that was the one I heard the most about. So there you go. Skip content creator. Best multiplayer speaks for itself. Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, and Valorant. Very strong list there. Best sports racing: Dirt 5, F1 2020, FIFA 21, and NBA 2K21, which is a travesty.
It's gonna be Tony Hawk. It's gonna be Tony.
Yeah, and then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. Definitely gonna be Tony Hawk. Best sim strategy: Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then XCOM Chimera Squad. Best family game. This time not totally dominated by Nintendo games. We have Animal Crossing, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, Fall Guys, Mario Kart Live, Minecraft Dungeons, and Paper Mario. I take that back. It was 3 out of 5, wasn't it?
Yeah,
but still. Or is it? Oh, it's 3 out of 6, so half. Best fighting game: Granblue Fantasy Versus, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Street Fighter V Champion Edition, One Punch Man: A Hero Nobody Knows, and Under Night In-Birth EXE Late Clear. That, despite the name being actual garbage, that game's pretty cool. But Granblue Fantasy Versus is the only like truly new game that also deserves Game of the Year, so give it to that.
Also interesting that there's only one Western fighting game on this entire list.
It's true. It says something about who's making fighting games, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Best role-playing game. Caleb and I disagree on this probably. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Genshin Impact, Persona 5 Royal, Wasteland 3, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm giving it to P5R.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think I'll tell you this right now. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake all the way for me. But I would not be surprised if Persona 5 or Genshin Impact take this category. Because
I mean, honestly, don't sleep on Yakuza either.
that is true. Like this is a very steep category. this
Yeah.
this year because
Yeah.
like it's just like there's a lot of a cult following with all of these, I think,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
it's going to see who. It's going to be interesting to see who comes on top. I think and Ezra had said this earlier before the podcast. Final Fantasy VII Remake has the only edge just because it's in a later category.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that
I agree with that.
I'll leave it at that. But
All right, moving on. Best Action Adventure: Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel's Spider-Man: Miles Morales, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Star Wars: Jedi Fallen Order, and The Last of Us Part 2.
this is a
That was us.
fantastic category.
Yeah, that
Every
that is-
single game in that list is great.
deserve- every
what?
single game on that list probably deserves it. I say probably because The Last of Us, none of us have played it, so we don't have any.
I will have a review coming probably soon. I don't know how soon, but within
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks, probably.
Maybe we can get it before the Game Awards.
I don't know about
Fingers
that.
crossed.
I had to say, I personally gave it to Jedi Fallen Order simply based on
Yeah.
the fact that we hadn't, like, even though it's not the most original gameplay wise, it was a really enjoyable game and a surprise. Whereas I wasn't surprised that any of these others were good. I was
Sure.
surprised that Jedi Fallen Order was good.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I gave it to Spider-Man just because like I played Star Wars, but I didn't like it all that much, and Spider-Man was really good.
I gave it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I gave it to Ghost. So we're all
Which is fair.
we're all in disagreement on this category. But
I
I
mean-
But we
gave
can
it
all
to
agree they're all great.
because Ghost has a very expansive
Yeah.
open world action and adventure type thing. It's kind of one of its selling points. It's really good. We talked about this in the fact that the side missions are fun. There's a lot of traversal elements to the game. I think that out of all this, even though this is a great category, and all of these games deserve it in their own right, I think Ghost pulls out the edge in this one.
I think Ghost win. I think. I mean the meta is that any category where there aren't two, there's only one Game of the Year nominee, that nominee will win that category.
Well,
like,
there's
Although
two.
there are two, so it's between Last of Us and Ghost. I don't. Last
think
of
it's
Us
gonna be
probably
Ghost.
doesn't win that.
As much as I want it to be Star Wars, I think it's going to be Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too. Best Action: Doom Eternal, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4. Definitely gonna go to Hades, I think.
Oh, I think it's going to be Doom.
I said Doom as well.
Is Doom on the Game of the Year
Yep.
nominee list? Oh,
Yep.
it is. Okay, then it could be Doom. I just think it's going to Hades.
Here's
Like,
go ahead.
go ahead, Caleb.
No, it's going to be. It's fine. It's all.
Okay. I was just going to say that, like, I don't think it goes really to Streets of Rage 4.
No.
I'm sure all these games on here, anyway, to get here, they have to be at least pretty good. Half-Life, I don't see getting it because it's a VR title, which kind of restricts the amount of people who could actually play it. Doom, I've just heard so many great things about. It also kind of had the benefit of coming out right as quarantine initially started. So a lot of people got to play that game because they were all sitting at home. So I think that, plus all I've heard about is how crisp and fluid it's 4K 60. I've heard the game is great. It's got an amazing soundtrack, which I'm sure we'll hear more about later. I'm rooting for Doom, but really I could see any game on this list getting it.
Oh, absolutely. Innovation and accessibility. This is the award for games that like pushed their sort of accessibility customization as far as they could. We have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Grounded, Hyperdot, The Last of Us Part 2 and Watch Dogs Legion. Probably Last of Us is going to take that, but who knows. Best VR AR, Dreams, Half-Life Alyx, Marvel's Iron Man VR, Star Wars Squadrons, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Probably going to go to Half-Life on this one.
I think it'd probably go to Half-Life, but I wouldn't totally count out Star Wars either.
Yeah, the sleeper is Star Wars, but the favorite to win is Half-Life. Best community support speaks for itself. Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Fall Guys, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and Valorant. I hope No Man's Sky wins that.
Yeah, I gave it to No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I hope it. I didn't see it on here, but I was like, I swear, if they give it to Warzone, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah,
but it's not nominated.
That would be awful. Best mobile game: Among Us, Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, Legends of Runeterra, and Pokemon Cafe Mix. In my humble opinion, I think Genshin should win just because it like raises the bar on what mobile can be. But I think it could go to any of these. I think Among Us is probably gonna win, but I want Genshin to win.
I've only played. I mean, I've played Among Us, and I've played a lot of Call of Duty Mobile. I will say, for a mobile game, Call of Duty Mobile looks great, and it plays pretty much. You can Bluetooth connect a controller, and it plays just like one of the console games. So I would say, if we're talking on the highest quality in terms of making it similar to a console title, Call of Duty Mobile is basically just a mobile, like a console game on the go. So yeah, I give it to Call of Duty.
Yeah. I mean, it's, all three of those are like, all three of them make sense as a winner there. Best indie, Carrion, Fall Guys, Hades, Spelunky 2, and Spiritfarer. Hades is absolutely going to win that. Best ongoing, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. I'm hoping for No Man's Sky on that one. Games for Impact. I'm just going to read the tagline here. For a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. So, super wacky category. I still don't know why it exists. If Found, Kentucky Route Zero TV Edition, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, and Through the Darkest of Times. Spiritfarer is probably the favorite to win, because that one made some bigger waves than any of these other games did. But we shall see. Best performance: Ashley Johnson as Ellie in Tilo 2, Laura Bailey as Abby in Tilo 2, Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai in Ghost of Tsushima, Logan Cunningham as Hades in Hades, and Naji Jeter as Miles Morales in Spider-Man Miles Morales. So
yeah, I haven't played many of these, but I gave it to Miles because he was great in Spider-Man 2018. So I had no doubt he was going to be great in this.
I gave it to Miles too. I will say it would be cool to see Laura Bailey up on stage because she's one of my favorite voice actors. And, Ashley Johnson also probably deserves it too. So it's, I think any of these people would be deserved to win. Best audio design. So this is not music. This is like footsteps. Who has the best footsteps? Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3, and The Last of Us Part 2. Probably gonna go to The Last of Us here if I had to guess.
I gave it to Resident Evil,
which is also fair. I mean, I just don't know enough about like how this works to make a proper call.
I also said Ghost. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's just because I think Last of Us could get it, and I also think Resident Evil could get it.
Yeah.
But Ghost is the game I played, and I knew that the quality and the audio designs really well in that game. So.
Yeah.
I gave it to Resident Evil, even though I haven't played it yet. I gave it to Resident Evil simply based on the fact that most of that game is, I mean, being a horror game, it's ambiance related.
Yeah.
So you got to have the footsteps and the zombies and everything.
Yeah.
I gave it to Resident Evil.
That's definitely fair. Best score in music: Doom Eternal, FF7 remake, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and The Last of Us Part 2. So we have some disagreement here.
Yeah, very.
Because Caleb and I think FF is the favorite, and then Sawyer, you think Doom is the favorite.
Well, it's definitely my favorite.
Well,
I wouldn't.
That's just...
What was that?
I was just gonna say that's just like your opinion, man. Like there's I just think like if I know critics, I know that they value something like the FF7 remake soundtrack more. Plus,
Yeah.
it has that like history thing behind it. Whereas like Doom can be the best metal in the entire world and still not win this award.
Yeah, I think like I think you got a good point there with saying that even though I think Doom's is great, I don't think it has the kind of clout behind what the voters would want, what the critics would want. I think it's FF7, like you said, has the legacy to it, but I also wouldn't fully count out The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, no, The Last of Us is a heavy hitter too.
So I think it's going to come down to those three, but it's even though I want it to be Doom Eternal, I think it's probably going to go to FF7, but I could see it going to either that or Last of Us.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that. I think Doom is definitely the sleeper. Like I wouldn't be super surprised to see Doom win, but I just think I just think FF is kind of the shoe-in on that.
Yeah.
Best art direction: FF7 remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and The Last of Us Part 2. You're going to start seeing a lot of repeats coming up here because all of the basically after this they're all the same games. But yeah, I think this one is just like a super toss up. Like nobody knows how that one's going to go, I think. Best narrative: 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2. That's, this one is too subjective to even matter, so who cares? Best game direction: FF7 Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and The Last of Us Part 2. So my again, this is like me going into the mind of a critic here. I think that like while all of these other games are super impressive in their own right, it is another thing entirely to take a classic like the original Final Fantasy VII and realize it the way that these people did. And so it's like I don't know how much that translates to it winning this award, but I wouldn't sleep on it, I guess is kind of my my thought process. But I think The Last of Us is also one of the biggest contenders here.
I agree.
At least from a direction standpoint. And then finally, Game of the Year: Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and The Last of Us Part 2. So this, in my mind, is the biggest toss-up of the award show. Like nobody knows how this is gonna go. I think in a different reality, The Last of Us was like the easy favorite to win, but given how it was received, it's not anymore. Like, and I think that's a shame because I think that like Naughty Dog took a bit more of a hit than they wanted to this year. But I do think that like I kind of assumed that The Last of Us 2 was going to be the shoe-in for this year's award show. and I don't think that's the case anymore.
I think it's gonna. I mean, it's a tough category for all of these.
Yeah,
Last of Us, like I originally thought it was gonna be the shoe in too, and I will say is even though I haven't played the game yet, I think Naughty Dog got too much like got given too much crap for the way they were treated on this game.
yeah,
Like the
I agree
leaks,
with that.
the leaks really hurt them.
Yeah,
And I think that was part of the problem. But also people who didn't agree with the story. I like trust me, I understand not agreeing with the story or like story's direction. I think we all know how I feel about the sequel trilogy. But
yeah,
I think there's a difference between disagreeing with where the story goes, but still acknowledging that something is good, and just giving the people behind it crap because you didn't like the way they decided to take it.
yeah.
I
Well,
think Naughty Dog, it would be a nice sense of vindication to give them the Game of the Year award.
I think that. So I think I agree with that, except uh like when you're talking about Game of the Year, you're not necessarily just talking about the story. Like Animal Crossing is not on here because it has a riveting story.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so like and Hades too, like I hear that like the story is actually really interesting, but like it probably wasn't nominated just because of its narrative. And so
Yeah.
it's sort of like um I think it's going to be really interesting to see because I think The Last of Us, I mean, it did get a lot of people criticized it. Like, forget the story. A lot of people criticized that it felt like nothing really felt new about the gameplay, and so
Mhm.
it's just sort of like the rest of it is all great, but if the game itself isn't, or if the
Right.
gameplay isn't like up to snuff, then
I think it.
what else is here? So I just don't know because I think it could win, but I also don't know if it just did enough to win.
To me, it really boils down to. It's going to boil down to, I think, Ghost of Tsushima,
Yeah,
Animal Crossing, and maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
don't.
think
Well, Hades. I think. Here's the thing about Hades. I've never heard of Hades until it got nominated.
Same.
really.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, you know, I could be just living under a rock, but I think it's one of those nominations where it's just they're giving the honor to nominate rather than
Maybe.
it actually going somewhere. I don't
I
know if
mean,
that's going to
Animal
happen.
Crossing is definitely in that category
Well,
too.
I think here's the thing that I think with Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was the hero of the pandemic.
That's true. That's true.
Everybody was playing it. It was. I think Animal Crossing has the potential to win just because of its impact on 2020.
I think so. Yeah, I think here's my thing is that like it is easy to forget that the Game Awards is actually a lot better about this kind of thing than other places are, where I would every single time say, oh, like Red Dead, The Last of Us, like those kinds of games are always going to win just because like that's what critics like. Like the Game Awards is actually really different about this because Sekiro won last year,
Right.
and I was not prepared for that. Like,
Which
was
that brings up another topic of like, do we get Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima both? Like that's
I mean,
an
we
interesting
should.
genre that is nominated in the Game Awards. If that's the
Yeah.
you know
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I think Hades is the Sekiro pick. I guess is kind of my feeling. Like if you apply like a lot of the same stuff to Sekiro that you would to Hades, it actually kind of lines up that Hades is the favorite to win. I don't know if that's the case, but I think like if you were going to ask me to give a soft prediction, I would be very tempted to tell you that Hades is gonna win, but I don't know. It's I mean, this is definitely a toss-up. We'll be watching it live, so you will see our surprises as the night goes on.
It's going to be fun. But hey, can we all agree that that concert is going to be great?
Oh yeah, the concert's gonna be awesome.
Because
who's gonna be in the concert?
well,
Nobody knows.
well, the orchestra that's doing it is the London Philharmonic Orchestra,
Hmm.
and
I know they've done a lot of video game music in the past.
and
Yeah, I mean I think they just do the Game Awards every year.
yeah, and they're gonna, just the soundtracks of all of these games
Yeah.
is going to be such a great compilation of all of them
Yeah.
together. Like,
I mean,
I'm like,
yeah.
we're gonna oh man, it's gonna be great. It's going to be great. It's
It
such
is.
a.
We're gonna
I'm
get.
definitely with that.
You think we're gonna get Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez on stage
Oh,
again?
please, Lord, no. I mean, they can never show up in a video game ever again after the Fast and Furious game. Like, we'll talk about it some other time, because it's a story. It's worth like spending an entire show talking about that game. But like, they are never allowed to show up anymore. Like, if that game was like good, then maybe. But no, it's never happening again. Nothing like that has ever happened.
I was looking at the people, like the celebrities who appeared at the 2019 show on this website, and it's such a wide range of people. We got Green Day, Churches, Grimes, J.J. Abrams, Margot Robbie, Steph Curry, Elon Musk, Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez. That is such a strange lineup of people all at this event.
I just hope that doesn't happen this year. I want like nerds.
Like, I mean, I don't mind. Like, it made sense, at least, like, even though it was kind of weird, it made sense for Vin to be there because he was in the game. So, like, that, but, like, I was like, why is Elon Musk here? Like, that doesn't, or Steph Curry.
It is a weird pick. Yeah, I don't know. I just hope that Jeff Keighley announces Game of the Year again this year.
Can you imagine they announce another Xbox during this show too?
Oh man. It's gonna be absolutely insane. I just don't know. I just hope all I want is Jeff Keighley to announce the award, the Game of the Year, and then Tetsuya Nomura to accept a Best Director award. Because that would be like
a
long
huge
time coming.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, let's move on. You know, tweet at us at CastKate on your predictions. You think I'm stupid and that the what was the nominations for score? That Ori and the Will of the Wisp should win Best Score? Tell me about it. I want you to call me stupid.
Or are you with me and thinking that Doom should have it?
Exactly. Or do you disagree with all of us and think that Hades had just like the most glorious music of the millennium? Let us know on Twitter at CastKate. But yeah, let's move on to some topics. So we're not talking about the news anymore, because news has been kind of slow, and that'll pick up as the year goes on. But yeah, Caleb, you want to tell us what you've been playing all week?
Oh, yes. So, as you know, and you might not know, I'm a
it's not
Kingdom
necessarily
Hearts fan.
common knowledge.
Yeah. And there was a game that came out. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. A rhythm game.
Yes.
Where do we begin? This game, in the year that we got Remind, this is a nice unexpected fourth meal we got this year.
Yeah. It's like that snack that you have after dinner while you're
Yeah.
watching TV.
That is exactly it. It is. It's a full length game. In some ways, it's not. It is
Yeah.
like for a rhythm game. I think you're going to be happy with. I enjoyed it as a rhythm game.
Yeah.
I do. How do I begin with this? It's like this game. It's a good game. It's a good full length game. I'm not disappointed, but
Yeah.
I do have some critiques of the game.
Okay.
One largely being for a rhythm game, I was hoping for a little bit of, as the beats are going on, and the notes that you have to make. I was hoping that while the notes did line up,
Yeah.
I was hoping that there'd be a little bit of how in Guitar Hero, if you miss the note, that note is missing in the song itself. I was kind of hoping for that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just for a rhythm game, but that might have that probably significantly reduced the amount of songs in the game, probably.
Yeah, almost certainly.
The songs in the game are pretty much everything that you could think of.
Yeah.
It's
-1.
Yeah.
I think.
It's pretty good. Oh yeah, Forza finale.
No, Nachtflugel. I want.
Well, yeah, Nachtflugel is I think is a little bit of a hard one to be.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't gonna show up.
Right.
I still wanted it.
Hey, you got your calling though.
I did. I got the World Ends With You.
Which I was shocked about. I didn't expect that to come be in the game, and
yeah, I was
almost
happy.
It's in the. So this game has 140 songs.
150.
150 songs
Total.
The game's story recaps basically all of the past games.
Yeah, every in order to understand the plot, these are the only things you need to know. Is kind of the way that the direction of this story goes.
Except, it's so brief that there's no way, as a new viewer, you are going to grasp what the heck is going on. There's just no way.
It doesn't work. It works better as watching the recap before the next season of your favorite TV show, rather than a summary on what's happened so far.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And that's how it opens up on how you could play all the songs from all the past games and stuff, and that's really fun. And I really enjoy the amount of content you get, and I do. And the story, even though it's a summary for most of the the campaign, so to speak, the story is, for the most part, that. But of course, it's not a Kingdom Hearts installment without some relevance to canon.
It's not a JRPG without some relevance to canon. This is not a problem exclusive to Kingdom Hearts.
Very true. Very true.
You're talking to somebody who played the Persona dancing game.
Yes. And so there's a little story segment that furthers the plot.
Yeah, at the end.
It is really well done, I thought.
Yeah, it's like as far as like what I was hoping for the story, or like the way that the story would play out, I got like more than I bargained for, I think. Um, because like they actually have some cool gameplay stuff in there that
Mhm.
that is like legitimately surprising and nobody I think saw coming.
No, I didn't.
So I was like legitimately impressed by by the ending segment in that sense. And it's and like the actual implications for where the narrative is going, especially in combination with an interview Nomura recently gave, is really exciting, I think. I just to sort of, well, I guess I'll let you continue with where you were going, because there's there's obviously more to
Right.
say.
I will say, without diving into spoilers, there's more small critiques on
Yeah.
the story itself. But I will say, I do like what we got. I just wish
Yeah.
it was an hour longer. That
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
that's not meaning as a joke. I really
No, yeah,
like. I really wish this was an hour longer, just because of. Uh, it seemed like there was a lot happening.
yeah. It did strike me as maybe a bit like, oh wow, like that went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Right. So that's kind of like how I felt.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily an hour, but even a half hour.
Yeah.
And
Like 2 more cutscenes, I think, would have evened it out better.
right, and if we look at Remind, we got a lot of story.
Yeah.
For arguably a 10-hour
Yeah.
DLC, um, depending on how you
Yeah.
go about your time and how skilled you are. It is like the gameplay, like Remind is definitely the better of this year in terms of story, but I
I mean, yeah.
Melody of Memory is better in terms of gameplay of this year.
Really?
Well,
Hmm.
it's like
Well, it's not a fair comparison, I
yeah,
think.
it's really not a fair comparison. Um, it I would say this. I would give this game a B. Just
Okay.
a solid B.
Hmm.
Um, if they expanded a little bit more on the story and gave a little bit better gameplay performance when it comes to certain songs,
Sure.
just the way yeah. Um, it I think it could easily be an A if they had done that, because
Yeah.
this game has a lot of content. I've probably played about 13, 14 hours in the game. Like the campaign is done, but there is so much extra stuff
Yeah.
that like it could I could see myself playing this for like 30 to 40 hours, like a
Yeah.
normal game.
I yeah, I think the neat thing about this, and um this kind of goes for kind of how I feel about the Persona dancing games, is that um like if I weren't as big a fan of Kingdom Hearts as I am, I
Mm-hmm.
maybe wouldn't necessarily have gotten it day one.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like I got the dancing collection for like $20, and I was pretty happy with that. But I don't think any of those Persona dancing games are really worth the $60 per.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's just something to think about, I guess. But like more than that, I think for me where Melody of Memory shines is the replayability aspect and the fact that
Mhm.
we have the campaign itself is pretty good. I would have changed some of the mission structure because like ideally what you want is a mission structure that can all be done in one playthrough of a song. But it is what it is. I'm not super hung up about that. But the mission structure aside, I think the campaign is pretty good. But once you're done with the campaign, it will feel like there's not much to do until you go into the museum and see that you've barely unlocked 10% of what's there to unlock. And I don't think I will ever platinum the game, nor will I ever 100% the game. And I think that's kind of good for it, actually. Because it means that like there's a lot of opportunity for me to play it, to just like turn it on like a year from now and still like play a couple of tracks and have a good time. The one thing I wanted to mention, just because I think it's worth mentioning, is I am sad that there's no way to like play against your friends
Yeah.
on the PS4 version. Because there is like a versus multiplayer
Mhm.
and there's co-op, but it's only local.
Yep.
Like I would very much like to school Caleb in whatever track there was, but there is no there's no way for me to reliably do that.
1v1 me on One Winged Angel, bro.
No way. Catch me on Rage Awakened Proud, and then we'll talk. But yeah, that's the one disappointing thing. I would have liked to see that, just because it would have made the package a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think I would give it a B too, just because I think like there's not much missing, but what is missing is kind of like man, I really would have liked to have that.
Yeah, it's kind of speaking volumes. Nonetheless, it's like it's small, but you can't help but feel it. In that way.
I definitely but I will say that like what's there is really strong, and I would, for anybody who like considers themselves a fan and is like listened to the music, and like fell in love with the music, I think it's definitely worth a buy. And then I think like anybody else, I would recommend it at like if it's on sale for like $20, because it's like a good $20 game.
Yeah, and I think that's why I kept trying to compare it to Remind, because Remind was a $40 DLC, and I thought that was like a great
$30.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was $30.
You bought the one that had a concert video.
That's right. I bought the one with the concert video. That's right. But so that's $30. I really think that this game could have been 40 or 50 at full price, but at its starting price. But I'm not going to be upset as a fan of the series. But I do think that as a game, it should be priced at 40 or 50 as a starting point. But
I'm with that. I'm with that. Yeah, and I think this game, for me, I walked away from my first sort of quote unquote playthrough, whatever that means, feeling very excited more about the future necessarily than I am like oh man, that was such a like fulfilling experience as a video game.
And the great part is what I love about this game is is you can play the ending as often as you want,
Yeah.
and it won't take you too long. You know, like
No, yeah. It's not a commitment to play the ending.
yeah, like literally, you get the full story in that ending. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you start it up, like you're like, man, I really need to, like, say you're going through the whole series and like you've already beat, like you're going through the whole series again, and you
Yeah.
get done with Remind, and you're like, okay, I'm not really like on board to go through all the tracks again, but I already have everything unlocked, and I already have the ending unlocked. I'll just play through the ending and
Yeah.
refresh the story right before going into
Right
the
before
next
whatever
one.
the next game is or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So I
Yeah, no,
appreciate
I'm
that
definitely
function.
with that. It is. It's a cool thing. I mean, thankfully, I probably won't feel a need to go
Mhm.
through the entire story again, at least for a while. But yeah, that's definitely a neat feature of it. Yeah. Did you have
Oh.
anything else you wanted to say about Melody
Yeah.
and Memory before we move on?
The one thing I did want to say about the game is more in regards to the special we made.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it we did plan on making a special, and there was two reasons. I mean, we did record it, but there was two
Yeah.
reasons as to why it never came out. Um, one was because this game, back in October, and we see a little bit of it now with the game's release, is and this is like into a whole other subject with Twitch, but there's a lot of DMCA claims of
Oh
late,
yeah.
and I did not want to risk that with certain things. And I only just now found out which tracks are the ones that that they're really flagging. But the thing is like also I got really busy, so like it was difficult.
Yeah.
But
It's a two-pronged issue.
I don't want to say that it's never going to come out because we've
Yeah.
recorded it,
We have it.
but
It exists.
it may take longer. I do have editing software now, so like
Huh.
so like maybe in December and January, maybe Ezra and I will like tag team it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
We still have to figure it out, but just wanted to make sure to our viewers that we're expecting that special. That like, yeah,
It's gonna
it's
happen
coming,
at some point.
but it had gone through some roadblocks. And that's what happened. So.
I just hope I just hope that it doesn't release before there's a whole new soundtrack we have to worry about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look forward to that, and we'll try to get it out in a timely manner. It's just a matter of like actually sitting down and
Mm-hmm.
getting it out there. But yeah, we went for 4 hours.
Yep.
So, ooh.
It was fun. It was a fun 4 hours, and it went by quick. But
Yeah.
that's
but
a
it
lot
was
to
4
go
hours.
through.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. We've got 2 more topics for this week's episode. So The Mandalorian is about halfway through this season. You two have watched up to and including the most recent episode as of recording this.
Yeah, I've seen up to the most recent.
Yeah,
Yep.
which I think is episode 6 of season 2, right?
No,
episode 4 of season 2.
Episode 4 of season 2. Okay. I've only watched episode 1, and
You've
I
only seen
liked
the Phantom
episode-
Menace? What? Oh, sorry. I had to.
it's my first Star Wars movie, man.
Wow, that's
It's
the debate.
not A New Hope was my first Star Wars
I know.
But yeah, we're gonna be spoiler free here. So no worries about any, if you're listening and you haven't watched it yet, no need to worry about getting spoiled. General impressions so far from the two of you?
So, Kayla, would you like to go, or do you want me to start?
You could go first, and then I'll.
Okay. So, no spoilers, as you said. I think. So, I actually, this might be a hot take, but I'm so far enjoying this season more than the first season.
Okay.
I think now both are obviously great. Don't get me wrong. What I like about this season is it's finding a like it's pretty much. I was talking to Kayla about this last night after I watched it. This season has found a way to pretty much solve every minor issue that I had with season 1. So
Nice.
at least so far. Now we'll figure out how it goes in the next week, but again, without spoilers, based on where I think they're going to be going next week, I highly doubt it's going to be a filler episode.
Mhm.
They've done a great job at minimizing the filler, and even when there is filler, like for example, episode 2 is technically a filler episode, but even then, despite being filler, it still was a really good episode, at least in my opinion, and it found a way to also somewhat branch into the story. Like, so you've seen season 1 all the way through, right, Ezra?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you remember those filler episodes in season 1, like the prison breakout one, or the one with the assassin on Tatooine?
Yeah.
How they
I remember. I think literally not paying attention to the one with Bill Burr.
yeah, like those
Yeah.
two, like the production values were good, but they were kind of boring and they didn't matter at all within the grand scheme of the story. Whereas this season, the second episode is kind of a filler one, but it's relatively short. It focuses just on Mando, Baby Yoda, and there's one side character, but the side character is kind of integral to where we go in episode 3, so I could forget.
Yeah.
It enhances where the lore actually is in the Star Wars universe at the time.
Yeah.
And like, basically, what I like about it is they've minimized the filler, and even when there is filler, the filler itself still finds a way to contribute somewhat and is also not boring. I think they've really stepped it up in the action department.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also really think they've stepped up in variety of locations. Like, I know it kind of became a meme with Star Wars about every single thing just being another desert planet, but so far we've only really seen one desert planet, and it was in the first episode.
Yeah.
So they've found a good way of giving us a variety of different locations so far. I really like where they're going with the plot, and thankfully, even though it still kind of has, like Caleb and I were talking with it, having like a very video game style structure, where it's like, oh, Mando, your quest that you're on, your main quest is to do blank that I can't talk about right now because of spoilers. But along the way to get there, a character might have a side quest for you that you pick up, and that side quest, while it may not be your direct goal, it's still going to help you on your overall mission by either providing you new info, new lore, new gear. That's kind of how I structure it. Is even when it's not part of the main overarching story, it still feels important when there's something that is, and that's what I really like about it so far.
I find it funny. Like, I find it funny. It's just because they're just not even subtle about it anymore. It's like, hi, Mando. Okay, well, you're here.
Yeah, that's literally how they start the conversation in the new episode. It's just, well, you've got some free time. You want to help us with yada yada yada.
Exactly.
It's pretty funny.
I will say,
it's like those moments in Spider-Man PS4 when like you just finished like the most dramatic scene in the entire game, and then Peter's on top of a rooftop and he's like, well, after all that, I think I have some time. I might as well go do some Spider-Maning around the city.
Yeah.
It's just like, go do a side quest.
The example that I best give it is something like an Elder Scrolls game where you walk up like, hello, traveler. Something like that. Like, that's how I equate it to.
Yeah.
I think I also really like, and this is what I really, now they're going to be careful with this. So far, they've been good. But what I kind of like what they've done this season is they've done a much better job with tying the show into the overarching lore, while
Yeah.
also finding that it's all about the balance here, because they've tied it into the overall lore much more than season 1 did, but I want them to really make sure they don't become reliant on it and use it as a crutch. Because
Yeah.
I really like when The Mandalorian does its own thing. Like, it becomes its own show and is not completely relying on, oh, here's this character, here's this item, here's this planet, here's this reference. Like, I like references, but as we've seen with some of the more recent movies, if you base your entire product on just references to the past, it's just going to get boring a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really want my one concern that I have is so far I'm loving how they're tying it into the lore and using that lore to kind of enhance the story. I really want to make sure they keep the core focus on Mando, Baby Yoda, Grief Karga, Cara Dune, like these new characters. As much as I love seeing and hearing about things that I can't talk about, it's I really think that should only be used as a way to enhance this story rather than just using it. I guess a good example would be the Rebels.
Yeah.
Where so we all seen all the Rebels here?
No, Ezra hasn't actually.
No, I still haven't gotten through Rebels.
Do you know about the stuff with well, I can't really ask you if you know about it.
Darth Maul?
Yeah, do you know about that stuff? Okay, do you know about the episode that he's in season 4?
I know that they portray the way that he ends, the way that story ends.
Okay, so I didn't know if you knew about that, so I didn't know if okay, but now that you know about that. But that's kind of how I compare it, is that episode with him and Obi-Wan is where it was, as good as that episode is, it doesn't feel like a Rebels episode.
No.
It's like they just took 30 minutes from Rebels time slot and was like, oh, well, we need to finish up this arc from the Clone Wars we didn't get a chance to do, so let's just write it in and make it a Rebels episode. I don't want them to do that with Mandalorian, where I'm worried that, how do I say it? I'm worried they'll end up making this show into more of a prequel to things that we've already seen, rather than making it stand on its own as a story about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
so far they're balancing it out good, but after the most recent episode, as much as I loved the most recent episode, I'm cautiously optimistic that they know where they're going with this. It's so hard to tiptoe around spoilers with this.
Yeah, there's so much that's happened in these past three episodes, Ezra, that we're like treading a fine line. Even that you already know, say, what happens in episode 1, which was pretty big. But
the reveal at the end of episode 1 is a pretty big one for original trilogy fans, I think.
Well, and I can see, again, without saying too much, next week is going to be a big deal, especially knowing with who's directing next week.
Is it Deborah?
Filoni's directing next week, right?
Who is?
Dave Filoni is directing next week.
Oh, Filoni's directing. Okay.
He's directing and writing next week. So
I will say, like, oh man, this Jon Favreau did the first episode. I forget who did was it? The second episode was Rick, wasn't it? Rick.
I don't know who did the second one.
I don't know how to pronounce the
third one was Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes.
Was the third one.
And then the fourth one was Carl Weathers.
Yeah, which I would say Carl Weathers did a great job.
Yeah.
I don't normally know him as a director, but he did a great job.
I think he loved
pretty cool.
He loved to do, like, I could tell, like, Carl Weathers was like, can we add in another swipe? Just this one.
He wanted more Star Wars wipes.
Yeah, it was.
And I could tell he loved the Baby Yoda puppet, because there's so many scenes of him with that puppet. Baby Yoda. Which, that being said, and you know me, I don't love when Star Wars does the whole, let's do the strict kids humor kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this episode, a way to not only make it, like, serious and add on to the lore, but it was also really charming and funny at times.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that kind of, like, sequel trilogy brand humor where it's like that kind of Marvel brand humor of, let's entirely pause, like, halt the progress of the story so we can tell a joke. It felt organic. Like, I kind of like it to the Return of the Jedi a little bit, like with some of the lines that Han would say, or some of his, like that part where he steps on the twig and the stormtrooper hears him and he does that kind of like shrug, like it's
Yeah.
that kind of humor where it's subtle and it works because it's not. It feels like it's the characters organically telling these jokes rather than just it feeling like it's a script telling you, hey, audience, laugh at this. It feels like it's something this character would actually say or do. And I just got to say, overall, I'm loving this season. I'm excited to see where they go. My only concern is that I don't want them to rely too heavily on what has come before, whether that technically meaning forward in the timeline or backward in the timeline.
Yeah.
Use it to help enhance your story, but don't rely on it. That's my only concern.
I will say this season for me has been an interesting roller coaster. I thought the first episode was a really good premiere, but I wasn't quite sure where they were going in terms of how they would structure the season. If we're getting more of like how we did in season 1, where pretty much every episode was like a side episode, and meaning like for the most part, like episodes 1, 3, 7, and 8 all connect. So that's your main story of the season 1, I think. If I'm remembering that all correctly.
2 kind of had a little bit. I think it was like the first 3, 7, and 8, but 4, 5, and 6 didn't really have anything to do with it.
So I was almost curious as to if like we're going to get like sprinkles of main story in each episode, but mostly largely they meant to be standalone, because that's what I kind of felt like with the first episode. And then the second episode reinforced that feeling. I think the second episode was fun. It's a fun horror episode. It's a side episode for sure. I mean, it's not really horror.
Of Alien.
Yeah. And there's a nice Easter egg to there.
Oh yeah, I caught it as soon as it popped.
I caught it.
Like,
Me too. Well, I had just. Never mind.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, let's.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. But and then it's really the third and fourth episodes have largely connected to each other, and we're really starting to see a plot come
it's
forward.
Much more serialized than it was in season 1.
Yeah, and episode 3, both Sawyer and I are in agreement. It's probably the best episode out of both seasons, probably.
Yesterday's might actually be in the running to top it, I think.
Well, yesterday's was pretty good. I will say yesterday's was pretty good. And
it's that good that I'm like, well, which one is better for the best episode? It's that good right now.
To me, it's episode 3.
But I think I would give episode 3 a slight edge in terms of my excitement. Yeah. But episode 4, I think, had the better action.
Yeah, there's a really cool sequence in episode 4 to look out for.
Yeah. It feels like a movie. Like it's the level of production value is insane. They have been putting so much money into this show. Mm-hmm. Like it feels. I know I keep referencing the sequel trilogy movies, but this show looks prettier than the entirety of Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Like it's.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. This show pretty much between this, Clone Wars, and Jedi Fallen Order has pretty much been what has restored my faith in Star Wars.
Yeah.
If this is what we're going to be getting, I can only dream about how good the Obi-Wan show is going to be.
Right.
Like if this is the level of production value we're getting, I'm sold, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Obi-Wan show.
And I think here's the thing. It's all boiling down to, I hate to be this person, but it's really all boiling down to direction. And you have Dave Filoni, who knows what he's doing in the sense that he's literally trained underneath George Lucas,
Hmm.
and he knows Star Wars more than anybody else besides George Lucas.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's pairing up with Jon Favreau,
Who
Oh.
literally started the MCU.
right? This is a pairing that like it's such a great pairing, and um, between these two, and we're seeing the results from it, and and they have a clear direction.
What was the joke I made like last year? Like Star Wars like, hey Dad, will you come help us out now, please?
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
It's a good point, and I think that, and this is not a slight against J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. As much as I
Right.
may not like what Rian Johnson did, and I think he and J.J. Abrams are still both good directors.
Mhm.
I just think what makes this show great, and this is what I've been saying for Star Wars as a whole, is from what I can tell in watching this, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau went in with a clear idea of what they wanted this story to be.
yeah.
Right.
Like, obviously, they're gonna like when you're in any kind of production, things will change as you're like writing and with budget and everything. Obviously, I don't really think budget is a concern on this show, but anytime you're making a show, or any kind of entertainment, it's going to change a little bit when you're making it. But from what I can tell, they've gone in with a clear idea of the beginning, middle, and presumably end of where the story goes and what they wanted to tell. Whereas
Yeah.
the sequel trilogy, I don't think they even knew that when they were making The Force Awakens. I think JJ might have had an idea, but Rian Johnson threw that all out the window. And I think that was the fatal flaw. Whereas this show, it feels exciting because we not only do we care about these characters, the plot is intriguing and it all feels consistent. It doesn't feel like we're just getting a movie and then the next movie jettisons all the character development and plot that the last one set up.
Right.
It feels, in terms of aesthetics, humor, character, it all feels like Star Wars, which is a feeling that I didn't get very often past Rogue One. And I know I might get some flack for that, but
No, I would agree.
yeah, I think Mandalorian is true. I think it's the most Star Wars feeling Star Wars we've got since Lucas left. Aside from the Siege of Mandalore, but technically that stuff was already in development and co-written by Lucas before it got sold off. So I'm technically counting that as part of the Lucas era. But of the post George Lucas stuff, not counting the Clone Wars, Mando is the best thing we've gotten out of Star Wars since Lucas was.
It's interesting. I think you bring up a really great point, and it's something that I really debated on this summer. Of I almost considered, like I did with other stuff, I almost considered that the Clone Wars as the penultimate finale of the Star Wars series. I almost was like, I'm almost happy to leave it at that.
Oh, I was too.
And not go further. Just like I think the best example of what I'm meaning towards is and we actually haven't talked about this in a really long time, but it's very much how I felt with After Crisis.
Crisis on
Infinite Earths?
Yeah, and
I see that.
And with Arrow ending, I have not picked up pretty much the shows after that, and we're starting to see. Oh, that's a whole other topic. That's a news topic that we forgot to talk about, but just as an example of that, or even after Endgame, I was really debating on that too. I know I had that conversations with you all of is this a good way to end it? Because I also, I love these stories, but I don't want it to, I want to call it at an end when it's at an end. I don't want to have to, keep watching more and more of the same stories type thing, and you know, I don't. I'd rather not end it on a bad note than on a good note.
Well,
Wait,
and I
did
will
that
say,
make
at
sense?
least
I
if we're
don't know.
talking MCU, as I think if Spider-Man's any indicator, they still have quality stories left to tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Which Mando is kind of the same example of that to me.
Yeah.
Is after, and I think you got a great point there, Caleb. Is after like Rise of Skywalker and all these other things, I was like, I'm ready to be done. Like it's over for me. And then I watched Siege of Mandalore, and I was like, that's the perfect ending. And it was also kind of really emotional for me because Clone Wars is something we all three grew up with.
Yeah.
So Clone Wars ending to me was also like part of my Star Wars fandom was ending because it's what I know was officially done. So I was like, I even had a conversation with Taylor, if any of our audience remembers her from episodes way back.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with her. I was like, I don't know, as much as I hate to say it, Star Wars for me might be dead after this. And I'm glad to say Mando has pretty much single-handedly saved Star Wars for me.
Yeah.
I'm
Revitalized.
I'm actually excited about Star Wars again, which unfortunately, other than Siege of Mandalore, I hadn't been for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to say it's back, and more Mando, Obi-Wan show, Jedi Fallen Order 2, Bad Batch. Give us some good stuff, Lucasfilm. I know you can. You can do it. You've done it in the past.
You're capable. We know you're capable.
The dark times are over.
Yeah.
Have you seen? I want to somehow make like a clip of that ending of Return of the Jedi, but it being like the sequel trilogy as like the ones in the fireworks, and then at the end it's like Jedi Fallen Order, Squadrons, Mando, and all these like the Force ghosts popping up.
Yeah. The fact that I think Star Wars Squadrons is also a signal that like something's changed. Like they know they can't keep doing the same thing again.
Battlefront 2's initial reception, I think, shocked EA into being like, oh, okay, we can't just coast by on the name Star Wars. We have to actually try.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's also going to help with, I think that's also kind of where Disney has realized with the sequel movies, is I think that also, now pandemic could partially be to blame for it. I know they also got to, now that they own Fox, they've got to share release dates with when Avatar is going to come out, if that ever comes out at all.
Never.
I think the key thing that I think they have to do now is, and taking a step back with the movies. Being like, okay, well, and Bob Iger even said this in an interview. He's like, yeah, we messed up. And I give him props for admitting that they messed up.
Yeah.
But I think they've got to really step back, take inventory, and figure out what it is they want to do with the property going forward.
I agree.
The Mandalorian is great, and I'm excited about the Obi-Wan show and Jedi Fallen Order 2, if that actually happens. I assume it's going to. But as great as these all are...
Oh, what if the Game Awards announce it? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Depends on how fast they rush it into production.
Yeah.
And Respawn is known for having a pretty quick turnaround time.
Yeah, I imagine they had already started development before that game was even released.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if we'll see it at the Game Awards, but I'm pretty assured that I think it's probably going to happen.
E3, we'll see it at E3.
Yeah,
I think if
E3 happens.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
As great as the show is, and that game was, and all these things, I don't think the franchise can just coast by living off of this. Like, I think they can use it as it's a great show, and I think it's certainly going to keep fans invested in the property. But I don't think the Star Wars brand can just coast by simply on The Mandalorian for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
They've got to keep bringing in new things, and they need to take a step back, look at the movies, and figure out, okay, well, where do we want to go now?
I also think, well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because the Jedi Fallen Order is in that gap between 3 and 4, so same with Bad Batch. Mando's in the gap between 6 and 7. And what was the other one? The Kenobi show is between 3 and 4 now. Like, these shows and games we're getting are good, but I love watching them, but they aren't necessarily driving a narrative forward. They're kind of just filling in gaps. I need to see where they're going to go to drive the actual narrative forward. Whether that's a Old Republic one where it's something completely new and becomes kind of the face for a while, or it's set decades after Rise of Skywalker. Whatever they do, I need something to drive the story forward and be new. I love these shows and games, and I love how they're not relying entirely on nostalgia, but they're kind of bottlenecked in the lengths that they can go to do something new. If they can't, like for example, Jedi Fallen Order, they can't do anything too radical because we already know the Jedi can't be back before the original trilogy. So they're kind of bottlenecked there. If they do something thousands of years before Phantom Menace or decades after Rise of Skywalker, there's a lot more free reign there. And I'd be really interested to see where they go with that. They just need to go in with a plan, take a step back, and figure out what it is they want to do.
I think with The Mandalorian, though, I think that this is a show that's going to go 3 to 4 seasons. I think that here's the thing. I don't think Dave Filoni will take that up to chance of trying to draw it out because he's already learned because he's learned that lesson from the Clone Wars. Like he
showed that with Rebels too. He ended out of 4 seasons.
So he's going to tell, like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are going to tell the story that they want to tell, and how many seasons that is how many seasons. But the long and short of it is, I don't think they have plans to like expand further from that, from what they already like have planned with the story that they're telling.
Yeah, and I think there's plenty of the Star Wars universe is so big. There are so many things you can do. Like it is there, the possibilities are really endless for what you could do in this universe. But they need to figure out. I'm glad they have that story group now to kind of map things out and make sure there aren't as many continuity errors as there was in Legends. But they need to make sure going forward that they have a clear idea of what they want, because for a while it kind of felt like how DC films were for a while, where they were just throwing things at the wall and we're seeing what would stick. And that is not a really good way to make art. It works well enough to make products, but to make something wholly unique and loved by the fandom that consumes this stuff, it's not sustainable. Force Awakens was a big hit, but then as you saw with the movies going forward, people got exhausted. They were like, where is this going? It was radically altered. The films felt very much like products. Whereas that's honestly the biggest comparison to me is the sequel trilogy films felt like big budget tentpole Disney saying, oh, well, we need a big blockbuster movie in this franchise to come out. And the movies felt just like that. They felt like products, not like anybody was really wanting to make them. Whereas you look at The Mandalorian, it doesn't feel like a product. It feels like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau had a story they wanted to tell, and it feels like there's genuine love and care put into it, which I really only felt in parts of The Force Awakens. And even then, a lot of The Force Awakens felt like it was preying on nostalgia and not trying to necessarily be its own thing. Whereas Mandalorian has nostalgia, but it's doing it lovingly and not using it as a crutch. It feels like these people who are making Mandalorian truly love and care about Star Wars as a property and want to see it thrive. And why? I do not understand why Dave Filoni was not picked to be the director of episodes. I love JJ. He's got a lot of great films under his belt, and he's a great director.
Star Trek.
Well,
Star Trek, it makes sense it's a reboot too. But Dave Filoni he's basically the apprentice of Lucas.
Well, here's the thing.
No, that's true.
Here's the thing I know about Dave Filoni is that the reason why he was probably asked, but he probably denied it, probably because I know for when it, and after watching the documentary that Disney put out on The Mandalorian, he said he was extremely nerved up to even direct one episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Because he has no experience in live action. So I imagine that he just did not want to touch episode 7 for that reason.
That makes sense. It's too big of a of an important film for him to be his
Right.
first film.
But if it were now, had he made the Mandalorian stuff, I'd be like, he needs to do 7.
But I think at least, like, even if he did direct, they should have called
Yes.
on Dave Filoni to write.
Yeah.
He should have been the writer by default. I do not understand why. Like, again, I like JJ and I like Ryan, but you have somebody who studied under Lucas, knows
Yeah.
the property better than anybody except for Lucas, and you don't. He still works for you, and he's clearly willing to continue to make Star Wars stuff, and you don't tap into that wealth of knowledge. It's. It's. I mean, we're getting more into the sequel trilogy now. But
well, I think he had a lot of input in Rogue One, and I think
oh yeah, I think that happened for sure.
and well, you could definitely tell because the way he set up certain Rebels episodes to tie into Rogue One, like
Yeah.
you know, even like the subtle like I think of the episode when they had to get those ships, you know.
Yeah, or the ones with Saw Gerrera.
Right. So there was he had to have been like, you know, he had to have been involved for that for some reason to keep that connective tissue and I think that also shows how good Rogue One is. But
Yeah. Rogue One, like, I think they've got a path here and they've got some great creatives. But I don't think Lucasfilm's problem is being starved for good creative talent because they've got a wealth of it, even including Rian Johnson and JJ.
Yeah.
The problem is not a lack in creative talent, it's a lack of preparation and it's a lack of creative freedom.
I agree. With that.
They need to. Mandalorian shows, to me, it seems like it's very creatively free for the creators.
Yeah.
Going in, if I can only imagine if JJ went in to the sequel trilogy with a thought out, complete plan, and was able to openly make what he wanted for all three of those, and maybe he did make whatever he wanted. I don't know what Disney's mandates were, but the problem is lack of planning and sticking to that plan. You can change things along the way. It happens with any production.
Yeah.
But not making at least an outline and trying to stick to your overarching plot and knowing where you're going means you can't really foreshadow anything or kind of build character arcs if there's character arcs and plot threads are just going to get discarded the next movie.
Yeah.
Mandalorian, watching season 2 after season 1, basically considering season 2 to essentially be the sequel, that character stuff that is started in season 1 continues on into season 2 because it feels like a natural progression of those characters. It doesn't feel like, oh, well, we're giving it to somebody else and now we're going to completely jettison those arcs and plot threads. It feels like it's a traditional sequel, which is something we never really got when it was just everything being thrown out the window from sequel to sequel. And it's not jarring. It's a complete story with actual character arcs. And I can't really say too much, and I don't know, Caleb, if you noticed this, but a prime example of this with character arcs in the show being subtle and carrying over. So you remember episode 4 in season 1?
Yep.
With like, oh, I can't take off my helmet, it's part of my religion and all
Yep.
that stuff.
Oh, I noticed.
And then in this season, we start to get, in episode 3, again, not saying too much, there's a revelation that starts to make Mando question things. And then this isn't really a spoiler, but I'm just going to address it for the latest episode. We see Mando sitting on the ship on the Razor Crest, and Baby Yoda's just sitting there eating. And you can see for a little bit that Mando's having this drink, and it like just lifts a little bit ever so slightly to kind of, and it's so subtle that they don't even call attention to it, but just to sip on whatever drink this is. And to me, that signifies that there's this character growth that's happening in that character. And it's so subtle, and it's like it's just something as simple as just him taking a drink adds character to this person that we've seen for, at this point, hours, which is more of a, like, that level of detail and character consistency was not there at all in the sequel trilogy. I mean, that's clear in the fact that Finn essentially had the same story 3 times, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of repeating
Well,
myself now. But yeah,
I know. I agree. I think it's always a good sign. I think my marker for the best kind of how do I put this? Like the clear knowledge that something was made with intention is how long they're willing to hold on a shot.
yeah,
And Mando is very good about just letting its shots go, just letting, you know, Mando walk into a bar and Baby Yoda being right behind him. Like being willing to take your time on something like that is a mark of something that even if it's not like the greatest thing in the world, was definitely given some attention. The Rise of Skywalker, even though I enjoyed my time with the movie, I think it's very clear that that movie had uh, was very bankrupt in that department. It's too lightning quick. There was like there's no real like breathing room in that movie. It was just like shot, 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 and yeah, it's a pretty stark difference. So
I can't
I agree with
remember
you on that.
if this was in Force Awakens. It was one of the sequel trilogy movies. I can't remember which one, but I saw this video on YouTube where it shows how the creative like differences in terms of how they end scenes in between
Yeah.
Mando and one of these movies. Whereas The Mandalorian is not afraid to focus on story and lore first, even if it means taking a slower moment and a breather. Like, I mean, one of the best parts of episode 3 of this season is literally just people sitting at a diner talking. I don't know, Caleb, you might agree with me on that. I don't know.
Mhm.
But like it's one of my favorite scenes was a discussion on lore, and it's great. Whereas I can't remember which sequel trilogy movie it was, but almost every single scene in the movie, and rather than having the conversation naturally come to a close, it's wrapped up with an explosion. It's like,
That's pretty wild.
and I know Aquaman did the same thing. As people were talking about that in Aquaman, but it's like every time something is about to happen, and I think it's either episode 7 or 9. It's like we're about to get to a revelation, but then somebody storms the ship. We're about to get to a character development moment, but then an explosion happens. We're about to get
Yeah.
to a character development moment, but then something crashes or something pops up. It's just abruptly cutting these moments rather than letting them breathe. You got to let these moments breathe. And I think that's Mando does a great job of that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been clear by this conversation, audience. I think we love this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely some love here for the Mando.
Yeah, I think I do want to address one thing briefly. I don't know if any of you guys saw this on Twitter, but give Gina Carano a break. Stop giving her flack.
Oh yeah, didn't she like vote for Trump or something?
Well, it was she talked about like ensuring that there was no voter fraud. Like she didn't outright say she did, but it was talking about like she's more leaning the opposite direction than the victor. But and I want to say like I totally understand the sentiment, but just because somebody expresses their opinion does not give you right to just drag them across the internet.
Yeah. No death threats, please.
Yeah, she's an actress just doing her job, and it's her personal account to share her opinions. She's not hurting anybody. So I understand the sentiment, believe me, I do, of disagreeing with what she's saying, but calling on Disney to fire her, saying that if Disney doesn't fire her, they're disagreeing with John Boyega's protests, is such a weird leap in logic that I have to just say, give her a break. I understand the sentiment, but calling for somebody to get fired and for their livelihood to be ruined because they don't agree with you is wrong. So
yeah,
that's just my 2 cents. Feel free to disagree with me, but I had to say that on the show because I saw that and I did not think I couldn't just be on this show and not throw my support behind free speech, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. All right, let's. Caleb, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the Mando with a Plando?
Uh, nope. I think
Okay.
we covered it. It's a good
Yeah.
show.
It's a great
Yeah.
show.
Good show. All right. Well, let's move on to our very final topic this week then. Um, so last time we talked about the console launches. We have a great deep dive on stuff with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Just a lot of good information in that show if you want to go uh, check back at that episode. However, I did manage to get my hands on a PlayStation 5 at launch. I was very surprised that I managed to get it. I did not expect to get one, but I did manage to get one, and it was I've had it for a week, and I thought, now is a good time to give my uh impressions, so to speak, about the console. And I have also asked for Caleb and Sawyer if you guys have any questions about the console itself. I'll there'll definitely be some time uh, for that as well, because I'm sure my experience isn't necessarily the only thing that you're um, or that like will answer your questions. Um, so I wanted to start with the UI because it's kind of the first thing you see whenever you boot up the console, obviously. Um, and there's not much to say about it, other than or not much to say that you haven't already seen through like official channels and whatnot. There are a couple of things. One, the PlayStation Store is a lot better,
Oh,
like
good.
significantly better. Um, Mostly because it's native to the PS5 itself rather than on PS4 it was just like booting up a web page basically.
Mhm.
Um so yeah, significantly better experience. Never going back. And then the media player as well is a lot better on PS5. It used to be pretty good on PS4, but like a year or two ago there was an update and it was super slow and I just never liked it after that. Um, Now I don't see myself using the media app on PS5 that much because I have a really nice smart TV. But if you don't have that, and you don't have like another kind of media hub like a Roku or something like that, PS5 works really well with it. So so that's good. And then the other thing with the UI is that while it's great and smooth and responsive and everything, I will say there is a reason why whenever companies show off their UI, they uh, they go slow, and it's because when you go fast, it'll it won't chug. I'm not gonna say that it like slows down to 2 frames a second or something like that when you're holding down one of the buttons. But it's not like the smoothest experience ever if you're like flipping through things super fast.
Right.
So that that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, like that's super nitpicky. Um, the other thing too is uh the so there's the when you're in a game and you press the PlayStation button, there's that like screen that pops up with the cards and then like the bar of different options. Um your power options are there, but then if you hold the power button and you get to see like your games and your library and the PlayStation Store and stuff, there's no power option there. You have to go to uh the other sort of options bar, which I'm not a big fan of. I liked the old way um that the PS4 did it, where like if you hold down, you get the options bar, and you could still turn off the power with that. But then if you went to the main hub, you also got to turn off the power, or put it into rest mode, or however else you wanted to do that. So that a couple of nitpicky things, obviously not the biggest deal in the world. And then I guess moving on from that, there's there are really only two other things to talk about, which is the experience of actually playing the games. I guess three: playing the games, the controller, and then other stuff like load times and whatnot. Backwards compatibility, I guess, is kind of the other thing. So I have played three games that were kind of made for PS5. Spider-Man, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, and Astro's Playroom. And I guess I'll start with Astro's. Actually, no, I'll end with Astro's because it highlights the controller. Spider-Man, I really liked. Load times are absolutely bonkers. Like it's kind of like a can confirm thing where were the videos fake? Was it all fake? No, it's not fake. The load times are absolutely insane. It feels like wizardry whenever you like teleport, whenever you fast travel. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to be that fast. I guess
Oh,
is kind
okay.
of the like it doesn't
So
feel right. You know what I mean?
yeah, you go to reach for your phone as you hit the load button,
Yeah,
and then like
exactly.
you
You're
don't
already
even get
there. Yeah.
past your lock screen, and you're already there. Huh.
Yeah, no, it's definitely super fast. And the use of the controller features isn't really extensive, but what's there is there. And I think it really shines in the new like graphical features that it has. And you guys know me, I'm not like super. I play like super niche JRPGs. Like I'm not super committed to like the graphical fidelity of every game. But I will say it looks in the fidelity mode, which has ray tracing turned off and bumps it down to 30 FPS. Among other things, like it's a native 4K rather than a upscaled 4K or something like that. Spider-Man looks absolutely incredible. You know, I guess there's not much else to say. Like you have to actually look at it on a nice TV in order to understand. But like things like snow melting on his suit as it's falling onto his suit is like it's just like it like breaks your brain a little bit. Like who has time to program something like that? So it really is like the little stuff in Spider-Man, and I'm not gonna talk about like the game itself all that much just because these two haven't played it, and Spider-Man is kind of a big thing for us on this show, so
Yeah.
try to respect that a little bit.
Yep. Although it's probably going to be a really long time until I play it.
Well, if you get the PS4 version, you could get the PS5 upgrade.
Yeah, but
You could.
well, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play that on the PS4. That's going to be.
I understand.
I think that is not an unreasonable take. So and then moving on to Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. There's not much to say. Like it's Devil May Cry 5. With some obviously with some new stuff. I will say the use of the adaptive triggers on the DualSense controller is not like really all that impressive. Like it's just one character and one trigger, and it's a neat idea, but I don't think it's really like something I would do for like it's not something I would keep on for more than like one mission. I kept it on for a little longer than that, but I turned it off and I felt like I was having a better experience. But otherwise it looks great with ray tracing. It's not, the game is kind of weird. Like some of it looks kind of like the shadows hit a little hard, so sometimes it's a little too dark. Like I could barely see Virgil sometimes, which is kind of weird. Um,
Could that be a TV calibration thing?
it could be too. Like I don't know. I had to turn off HDR because it was just washing out every game that
Oh.
wasn't a PS5 native game. But like that aside, it looks great. And the load times are super fast. Like not the game wasn't made for PS5, so obviously it's not like quite to the level of Spider-Man, but it's still like really rapid compared to the original. The original, you were like waiting for 15 seconds to like go from menu to menu. And this is like you're really you're going through quick in this game. So it's a really nice improvement. Um, and then obviously, it's super impressive seeing in like Legendary Dark Knight mode just like these hordes of enemies that really only belong in like a Dynasty Warriors game showing up in something like Devil May Cry, and just seeing like the absolute havoc on screen uh, while you're doing whatever you're doing. And the other thing too, I guess I wanted to mention, this applies to both games. I tested out, so you know how the cards and like the activities will show like different modes and like levels you can go into in the different games. Um, those, I will say, I don't think those are quite like fleshed out enough to work the way that most people want them to. Because like I tried it with Spider-Man, and it was like a mission or something, like a side mission, in Spider-Man. And the one thing that I didn't like is that instead of like booting up the game and taking me like as fast as possible, taking me to the mission, it plays like the opening credits with like the Sony Interactive Entertainment logo and the Insomniac logo and the Marvel logo and all that, and then it pushes you to whatever activity you chose, and then like DMC5 is a little better because all it does is just like I think it's like the Capcom logo, and then it does a bunch of like checking for your save data and uh like connecting to the network and stuff. So it's not
So
like um
that sounds more like that's up to the developers than it is.
yeah. And so like I don't think it's super well fleshed out in either of those games, and I think it would be solved with something like quick resume like it has in um like Microsoft has.
Yeah.
So I really hope that that's something that they implement in the future, is a kind of quick resume ish feature. Because they don't have that now, and that would be really nice to have. But yeah, I think that's basically everything there is to say about Devil May Cry 5. And then moving on to Astro's Playroom, and I guess I'll combine this with the talk of the DualSense controller, because that is the meat and potatoes, as it were. This is the big thing with this console is the DualSense controller, and I have to say it sounds very gimmicky when you hear about it, and it's not really something you can describe while you're when you talk about it. It's something that you really do have to get your hands on it. But Astro's Playroom uses the DualSense to like its absolute limit, and it is very impressive. I was astounded with like The sounds coming out of the DualSense are a lot more like frequent and how do I put this? Like they actually matter more, whereas like it was a super gimmicky and rare on the PS4 DualShock. So so like that alone was pretty cool. But then like the haptic feedback like tracks every footstep that you're taking and will like make different vibrations based on like what the weather is in Astro's Playroom. Like you'll have an umbrella and you'll both like hear the rain patter and it'll vibrate alongside that. The adaptive triggers are really cool. I haven't gotten too much use out of them, but like they do really kind of try to match the sort of the sensation that the character is going through with what's happening in the triggers. So that was really cool. And I think, Astro's Playroom was a good time regardless of those things, but it's also like a really cool tech demo for the DualSense controller itself. Even just like the opening segment where it shows off everything that you can do is like worth the price of admission, I think. So yeah, I was super impressed by Astro's Playroom, both from a sort of tech demo-y perspective, and just as a platformer, it was a fun 5 hour, 2.5 hours.
I'd be like, 5 hours is a little long. I'd rather go to my
I
games, but 2.5 hours.
I mean, it's probably more than 5 hours if you're trying to totally complete it. And there's like a lot of cool like PlayStation trivia in the game too, just like little Easter eggs and stuff. Like I found, just as an example, like I found like a couple of Astrobots dressed up. One dressed up as Dante from DMC3, and the other dressed up as Jester from that game, uh, and like Dante was juggling him in the air and stuff like that. And it's just like little stuff like that is all
Right.
around the game, and it's really cool.
Huh.
But yeah, I was impressed by that. And then I think so the other kind of major thing is like, oh well, how does backwards compatibility work with this? And it varies from game to game. And I haven't I haven't tested every major game out. And honestly, you'll get a better analysis from somewhere like Digital Foundry or something like that, who actually like crunches the numbers and tracks the actual frame rate. But I have some. I'll give you some like just like a brief descriptor of what I found when I was sort of digging through my library with stuff I was interested in. So the first thing I'll talk about is Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
Runs at a buttery smooth 60 FPS.
You love to hear that.
I haven't gotten to any like combat scenarios, so I don't know how consistent it is, but I assume, based on another game I'll be talking about in later on, I assume it's just fine. The load times are not.
Oh, good.
The load times are not like significant, or no, I shouldn't say that. They're better, but they're not like lightning fast better. So it's down from like a minute and a half to 30 seconds till like not even that, till like 15 seconds. So it's still like a huge upgrade, but it's not to the level of something like Spider-Man. What? So that's basically all there is to say about Final Fantasy 15. Obviously, I think it's worth mentioning that if you had a base PS4 and then you sort of transfer these games over to your PS5, you'll get any like improvements that came with the PS4 Pro version of that game. So stuff like HDR and 4K support and stuff like that. Um, so that's worth mentioning.
That's where I have my question, actually.
Yeah.
If you're ready for questions, or did you want to wait
Yeah, I
for those?
mean, shoot.
So that was the weird. I wasn't able to get a definitive answer on it. So I know that PS5 games have to be installed directly to the SSD.
Yes.
I know PS4 games you can play off of the external hard drive.
Yeah.
For backwards compatible games, in order to get the PS4 Pro enhancements when it's running in backwards compatibility, to get those enhancements, do they have to be installed to the SSD, or can they get the enhancements when played off of an external drive?
So they can't get like
But I
the
don't mean like the
PS5
PS5 enhancements. Yeah.
But by my understanding, and I haven't tried this because I don't have a good hard drive for a PS4 for any PS4. But based on my knowledge, to me it sounds like you'll get any PS4 Pro enhancements. It just won't be the
PS5 enhancements.
yeah, it just won't be any enhancements that you would see with the PS5. So like Final Fantasy 15, you'll get like the PS4 Pro stuff, but it won't run at 60. Is sort of the
when playing from an external drive.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes like because that was the thing I had is there were so many games that so I only have the base PS4. I didn't get the Pro.
Yeah.
And because there's such a little space at launch on the PS5 without those SSD like expansion slots, I was like, well, I want to play a lot of backwards compatible games with Pro enhancements now that it can play Pro enhancements and backwards compatibility. Yeah. But I didn't want to use up all that SSD space. So if I had this external drive from my PS4, if I could just plug that in to the PS5 and get Pro enhancements off of the SSD, or I mean off of the external drive, but only get the PS5 enhancements on those that have a dedicated patch, that's what I was going to do. So I'd have to see, like, it'd be great if I can just, like, for example, I don't think Doom, for example, I don't think Doom has the 2016 one has a PS5 patch, but it has a Pro patch. So if I could just play the Pro version off the external drive rather than having to install it on there would be a dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing I would say about that is that basically every backwards compatibility game is going to see some kind of improvement.
I meant like the native improvements, like what Ghost of Tsushima is getting.
Yeah, that's true, and it is definitely kind of up to the developer on that. But yeah, I mean, the recommendation is to play them off of the internal SSD, but you can definitely do that and you can definitely do an external hard drive and still get the Pro enhancements. You just won't get like high performance and loading time enhancements.
Okay.
Basically what you're looking at. All right, so moving on. So that was Final Fantasy 15. I also tried Persona 5 Royal, and that game already had pretty quick loading times. So it's really like comparing. It's like comparing an apple with another apple that is like only slightly better. Like it's not really. You're not getting much more. Like it doesn't run at a higher frame rate or anything like that. It's like the loading times are slightly faster by like a second or two, maybe. But you know, it looks great, and it's Persona 5 Royal, so it's you're not really losing out on that much. But you know, improvements are improvements, I guess. The next game that I booted up was, well, I'm not talking about this in chronological order, I guess. I tried out the I tried Kingdom Hearts 0.2, and
Okay.
I'm happy to report that that runs at a buttery smooth smooth 60 FPS. And looks really nice too. So give that a go if you ever want to play through that again at some point. And and then I also played some Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix as well. And it's like going from Mach 1 to Mach 2. Like it's not like you're still going really fast. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's definitely faster. And there's even some like
So, is this going to break all the speedrunners' time?
nah.
No.
Nah. No, it's like it's faster by like again, it's like turning a second into half a second. Like it's not that much faster. Cuz it was the Kingdom Hearts 2 FM loading times were already super fast on PS4. So it's just like it's taking the best version of that game and making it slightly better. um, so you know, again, it's an improvement, but it's not like that significant of an improvement. Obviously, because it's a PS2 game. I mean, what are you like? This console runs that kind of game like it's like um like it's a bike with training wheels. Like nobody was worried about Kingdom Hearts 2's performance on PS5. Um, is there anything else besides the last one? Because that's the only one. I guess, Melody of Memory runs super well. But that was kind of a given, I guess. It's a rhythm game. There's not much to talk about with that. I can't imagine loading times are that much better, but I could be wrong. They could be significantly better. I just haven't.
Well,
The
I don't
demo,
yeah, I don't really remember much loading times just playing the game. So
yeah, there's like a loading time when you load into the map the first time or something like that.
well, actually, there is one thing that it's probably faster
Yeah.
on PS5, but there is a considerable amount of time on pressing when you're in the world map and pressing pause.
Oh.
There's a considerable
Huh.
amount of time to switch your team and stuff that way. And
Yeah, no, I didn't encounter any of that.
and synthesizing items. It's quite a long time just to press pause on. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no, I didn't encounter any of that. So that's an improvement. And then the only other one besides the last one is I booted up one of the Naruto games and it doesn't have an unlocked frame rate, so I was super underwhelmed by it. But I think it loaded pretty fast, so there's that. But then the backwards compatible game that I've spent the most time with is I just finished a critical mode playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 3.
oh, okay.
And I am happy to report that the load times are quicker. Not like, again, it's like a Final Fantasy 15 scenario where it's not like lightning quick, but it's pretty quick compared to what it was. But what was once a very inconsistent 45 to 50 frames per second game is now a buttery smooth 60 frames per second game, and it looks absolutely incredible. And there were only a few instances that I found of slowdown, and they were spots that would like really make the base PS4 chug. Like the example is in like Toy Box when when you're in that section and you point the purple mechs cannons at the blocks, and like how that would just like slow it down to what felt like 15 FPS on base PS4. Now slows it down to like 30. And it's for like 2 frames, so it's not really that big a deal. And then there was like one other one, but I think it was just like an anomaly. Yeah, I don't remember it very well. But yeah, the rest of the game runs super well. The load times are a lot better. And it looks absolutely incredible in 4K. I think that because the base PS4 doesn't have 4K to support, so I hadn't looked at it in 4K. It looks really nice in 4K. But that's a PS4 Pro enhancement, I think. And yeah, it runs really nicely. Very impressed with how well it ran, and it running as well as it does actually enhances the visuals too, because it's not because it was made to run in 60, but obviously it wasn't able to hit that quite as consistently on PS4 and PS4 Pro, and I assume Xbox One and Xbox One X. So yeah, no, I was super impressed with Kingdom Hearts 3's showing. I think it really sort of enhanced my gameplay experience in a lot of ways. And yeah, I guess that's basically it, unless I'm forgetting something, which... Oh, I guess I tried out Monster Hunter World because it's on the PS Plus collection, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll give this game another chance. And I'm not... I don't really like Monster Hunter World. I guess it's just like a weird me thing, but but it ran really well, so there's that. The loading times were also fine, not super great, but they were better than what I remember based on my first my experience on the base PS4. Oh, and then Dragon Ball Fighters, the loading times were also pretty quick, but otherwise there's not much improvements to be had. So yeah, those were that was my PS5 experience. Overall, super impressed with the console. I'm really looking forward to seeing sort of what's next, more than like... I mean, Spider-Man and DMC5 are great, but they're not but they're like super early gen experiences, and I haven't played Demon Souls, so I don't have any I can't really say anything about that. So yeah, if you guys had any other questions, please, now is your time.
I have one. So
Yeah.
I've been hearing lately that the PS5 and maybe the Series X has been having a hard time running properly, in a sense of that I've heard that they are crashing for some people.
I had only a couple of experiences with that. I had DMC5 crash, and I think that was more of a network related issue, because I was able to boot it right back up to where I was, so I don't know what happened with that. And then Spider-Man, there's some like technical stuff with that game, but otherwise my experience with that game was pretty good. And then the only other thing has been what was it? The rest mode thing. There's a glitch where it'll kick you, like if you put it into rest mode while you're running a game, it'll actually like turn the console off or something, and as if you turned it off while it was or like
Oh,
as if you unplugged it while it
yeah,
was still on, kind of thing.
yeah.
And it'll like repair the storage and stuff. And I heard that actually bricked someone's console. So I've
Mhm.
been trying to avoid I've been avoiding putting my console in rest mode with a
Mhm.
game running. But I have encountered that issue. I will say it's definitely like a known thing, and that's kind of why I've been avoiding it, just because I would like to not have a bricked console.
Right.
Well, with how fast the boot up is, I guess that would be much more safe to just turn it off rather than putting it in rest mode if you can boot it up as fast as you can on the PS5 anyway.
Well, I think it's I don't know. Yeah, I mean it boots up pretty fast from a powered off state, but I think it's even faster from rest mode. So I think the main thing is like if you still have a game running in the background when you put it in rest mode is the
Does it
thing. So
does it matter if the game is paused or does it just if it's on the screen at all?
I think if it's like if you did not close the game before you put it in
Uh,
rest mode,
okay.
kind
That
of
kind
like
of
how
negates the
it does it
purpose
in
of rest mode
PS4.
then.
Yeah. Um. So hopefully that gets fixed. You know, I don't know anything about the Series X's problems because for one thing, I don't have one, and for another thing, it's just it's not really on my radar. Um, but but yeah, that's the thing with the PS4. So that would be my recommendation is until there's some documentation on what exactly causes it, and if you can uh if they fix it, uh maybe don't obviously don't leave a game on while you're putting it in rest mode, because I've definitely encountered that issue. It's not like it doesn't seem like it's only a few people, or like one out of every 15 consoles or something like that. uh so yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for, but it hasn't broken my experience of it yet.
Okay.
And it otherwise the PS5 runs really nicely, and even like switching from game to game, like I'm still missing the quick resume feature. I still wish that was something PS5 had, but it's still like a really fast transition from game to game. So you're not you're not necessarily missing out on everything with not having quick resume. Like it's still fast to go from game to game. So yeah.
I will. I'll have to let you guys know what my opinions are. I'm have my hands on. I said this on the show in the past before, but mine did arrive. I just because of the way school break's going to be, I had it sent home rather than to my college apartment. So my opinions will be coming soon. that's I can. I will also have my opinions on the Xbox Series X as well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing those, because I've seen the Series X in action, and it's for running no exclusive games, it's still like a pretty good showing. So uh
If
I'm looking
there's
forward to hearing what your thoughts are on that.
if there are any games for either system that you get the audience or you guys would like to hear about performance, whether it's backwards compatible or new, if I have it, I will definitely give a report on it. There's a
Yeah.
I as a collector, there's a good chance that I probably have it. So if there's a game that you want to know about how it runs, DM us, tweet at us, whatever you got to do, and
Definitely.
let me know what you want to see. I'm having trouble figuring out what I think my first game on the new hardware is going to be. I'm thinking, just because I know the campaign is going to be pretty short, just based on the history of the franchise, I'm thinking I'll probably start with Call of Duty.
Mm.
That way, also, if I get it done, I can clear part of my hard drive for more games. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I will say, as somebody who does not play a lot of AAA games, and the ones that I do play are not like super space intensive, space hasn't been like a huge issue for me. Um, but you know, if you, I mean, the question is, do you like Call of Duty? If you do, space is going to be an issue for you on PS5. If you don't, I mean, maybe don't set your expectation that you can have every game, but you'll be able to have most of the ones that you're currently playing at least.
I'll probably, I know Modern Warfare had this. I'll probably find a way to delete portions of the game to free up some space. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, no, I mean, I really only play zombies and campaign, so just cut the multiplayer. And I doubt they allow you to get rid of Warzone because that's the moneymaker. But if I can get rid of Warzone, then yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I'm looking forward to it. We'll get a good comparison, and I've got. I guess that brings us into for games to play on new hardware. If you were lucky enough to get hardware, Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday.
Looking a little different this year than previous years.
Yeah, no, so we each are going to tell you the way that I told these guys to think about it was give us sort of one, if you could tell anybody to buy anything, what would you have them buy this Black Friday? And you know, if you guys are ready, you can just kind of shout them out. Give us like a reason why. But yeah.
So for the audience, and I did put for you guys here if you want to see it. IGN has a really good list of 2020's Black Friday deals across multiple different retailers, and they have it broken down by platform as well. It's really comprehensive, and it's that's pretty much how I made my list of what I would be picking up. And I should clarify that even though you would think with the name Black Friday that it would be Friday following Thanksgiving, but due to COVID and the weirdness of this year, a lot of these retailers have been already posting their Black Friday prices online.
Yeah.
And some of them start, as we're recording this, tomorrow on the 22nd. GameStop starts on the 25th. I believe, I think PlayStation Store has already been doing theirs. So, but for me, I think the first one that I saw that I had to shout out, and I want to see where it was. I forgot who was selling it. I believe it was Walmart. Oh yeah, well, give me a second to find it.
Well, I can jump ahead while you're looking for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the PlayStation Store, so if you have a PS4 or a PS5, they're running their Black Friday digital deal right now, where you know, various games for however much % off they deem is appropriate. The one that I wanted to shout out, there are actually two. I wanted to just mention two really fast, but the main one I wanted to highlight was Persona 5 Royal. Is 50% off, making it $29.99, which is a really, really good deal for that game. 100 hours, probably. I don't know if it can count as my game of the year, but it's like definitely in the running for it. Just like on the new content alone, it's in the running for my game of the year. Forget like all of the stuff that they've improved from the base Persona 5. $29.99 for Persona 5 Royal, really good. So I would definitely shout that out. Yeah, and there's also, the digital Black Friday sale for PS Store is also just like really good in its own right. Like I'm seeing some stuff for like Tekken 7 Ultimate Edition is 80% off, which is 19.99. Um so yeah, like there's some really good deals here for the PS Store Black Friday sale. So, if you're somebody who likes to buy digital, which I do a lot of the time, it's a really good opportunity to get some games.
A couple of the ones that I saw, I mentioned it earlier during the Game Awards, but Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is $25 for both Xbox and PlayStation 4
Well worth the
Best
money.
Buy.
That's
What
pretty
was
good.
that, Gil?
I said well worth the money.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I know I'm surprised that I'm the one shouting it out rather than these guys, though. Maybe I'm stealing Caleb's here. But as we talked about before the show, at Walmart, starting on the I think 22nd or 23rd. Oh no, 25th. Starting on the 25th, they will have the Kingdom Hearts All-in-One collection or whatever it's called, All-in-One pack or something like that, for $20, which is what, 10 games, something like that.
It's
It-
one
it's-
Chain of Memories, two Birth
thi-
by Sleep,
I think it's a total of
Drop.
13 installments.
Dream Drop,
Don't quote me
0.2.
on that.
Wait. Oh, sorry, I have to count again. 1 Chain of Memories, 2 Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, 0.2, and 3. So
Okay.
so that's 7 games.
Yes.
And then you also get the days coded and
Back cover.
back cover movies. So that's 10 things
Mm-hmm.
in the package. And while we're at it, Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind is down to like, I think it's like $7 off right now or something like that. So it's a good time to sort of catch yourself up on the Kingdom Hearts series.
Oh, for sure.
And the go ahead. I was just gonna say one thing was if you're looking for collections for good money, GameStop starting on the 25th is gonna have the Wolfenstein Alt History Collection, which is Wolfenstein: The New Order, The Old Blood, New Colossus, and I think Young Blood, all in one pack for $40, which is coming down from normally being 80. So it's half off, pretty good deal for what I've heard is 4 great games.
Yeah.
You can off there, Caleb, if you want to go ahead and.
Yes.
Oh, well, Sawyer did say what I was going to say. But I could also say that the game of the year this year is also on sale. Final Fantasy VII is on sale, I think.
It is. I can look here.
I forget what it was reduced down to. It's not a big sale.
I saw it. I saw it like just now. Where it's all
it
deals.
was.
Here we go.
It was.
Yeah, it's 34% off.
Yeah.
So, which makes it $39.59.
Yeah. So
So-
you're getting $20 off.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's well worth the money. I will say
Yeah.
it's a long game, but a fun one, and
Yes.
and it's definitely worth the money. And especially saying like, if there is like, say you've played Ghost this year, you've played Doom, and like there's one more game that you want to play of the nominees this year, Final Fantasy VII is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, Final
FF7.
Fantasy VII is the way to go in general, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, even The Last of Us Part 2 is down to 30. So down to 30. So, like these are some really solid deals. But yeah, definitely Play Persona 5. Play
And
Persona
it
5.
got
boys.
robbed
Oh.
from Game of the Year, but if you're really itching for something to play and it should have been nominated, at Best Buy for $20 you can get Fast and Furious Crossroads. So
Oh,
if you
man.
really,
Wait, $20?
yeah, $20 at Best Buy.
Oh my gosh.
Did you see what I put in the chat yesterday, Ezra, with Persona 5?
Oh yeah, like like you wish you still had that $30 gift card.
Yeah. Remember when I was like, "Oh, these are some great deals going
Yeah.
on a couple months,
Oh, that's
like
happened
a
to me
month ago."
recently too.
Hey, I mean, you got Nier, so it's
That's
fine.
true. I did get
you.
Nier.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the priority here.
Yeah.
But Nier is not on sale on the PS Store, so
Yeah.
Well,
I would have recommended it too.
Yeah, I did get screwed on a couple of these. I had literally just ordered Ghost of Tsushima from GameStop, and then the next day, $40 at Best Buy, and I was like, "Come on, man, really?"
I'm so
Some
excited for you to
bad
play
timing.
that game.
Like I've got so many to play, and like I'm excited to play it too. I don't know if it's gonna be if I'm gonna play it in Kurosawa mode or if I'm gonna play it in the color mode. I'll have to see.
Here's what I say: play the first 2 hours in Kurosawa, then switch. Just because the Kurosawa mode is kind of hard to play.
Yeah.
If you don't know the mechanics, or
Well, it becomes hard to recognize what your enemies are and what is like highlighted as like items to
okay.
pick up. So
Makes
like as a
sense.
gameplay experience, it's probably best to not do Kurosawa. But for the sake of a filmmaker's perspective, I would just say play the first 2 to 3 hours in that mode and then switch if you want.
I was kind of thinking about breaking it up to like doing the campaign in color, but then doing the side missions in Kurosawa or something like that.
Yeah.
Getting like
Yeah, you could do that. You could switch them at any moment. So it's
cool.
whatever your preference is.
It's a tough preference, but
Right.
oh, that reminds me also for the audience. Ezra gave us a great play-by-play on the PS5's backwards compatibility, but there's one aspect that you didn't cover, which is VR games.
Oh yeah.
Backwards compatibility, and
Which I've never played like a. That's not true. I've played like 2 hours of VR in my entire life. So, no, I have no like good impressions on that. So I'm looking
luckily
forward to
the weirdness, yeah, to my
to your
coverage.
impressions on what. So you're gonna be doing yeah, because Xbox doesn't have VR,
Yeah.
so you're gonna be doing
So-
the backwards
PlayStation
compatibility
VR.
for PSVR, which is gonna be I'm interested to hear about that because nobody's talking about it.
So what's going to be interesting of a play-by-play with that is technically I think part of the reason nobody's talking about it is because you needed to have a specific adapter for it to work.
Mhm.
So yeah, the weird thing was you had to, and it was a hassle that I had to go through to get it. But rather than coming with the box,
Yeah.
you couldn't buy the adapter at retail. You had to go onto a specific Sony website and submit your PlayStation details and the serial number on your headset, and then they would mail you an adapter. The weird
For
thing
free,
is,
right?
for free, yes.
Huh.
The weird thing is the adapter is not for the headset. The adapter is for the camera, which was strange. I mean, so the headset is fine, but it's the camera that needed the adapter. So after submitting all these details, yesterday there was some weirdness, and I figured this out too by looking at the PlayStation VR Reddit page. If you ordered a PlayStation VR camera adapter, but you have not received your adapter, check your mail because recently, and I've seen this and it happening to multiple people, and it actually happened to me because it was confirmed by my dad today, the orders for camera adapters are being shipped to the right addresses, but under different names. So I received a PlayStation VR adapter, but it was under the name of somebody completely different from me. And we did initially send it back, but it defaulted back to us again after I called Sony about the problem. So I know I'm not the only one because apparently there's multiple people who it's happened to, and it might actually just be our state because the state mentioned on this Reddit page was also saying that their incident of this same thing happening was in this state. So, I I don't know what's going on there, but if you're looking for a PlayStation VR adapter and you've got some weird mail that's not in your name, but you're still waiting for your adapter, I'm not condoning mail fraud, but I'm saying that might be it. So maybe call Sony and make sure they have the right name on file.
Do it.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it on the backwards compatible games. I've seen only like one report on backwards compatibility saying that Squadrons looks really great in backwards compatible mode. The VR mode, especially in Squadrons, like there's some sharper detail, and the frame rate is, even if it wasn't already consistent, it looks even better. The VR games I'm probably going to give a shot at are Star Wars Squadrons, Vader Immortal, and Doom VFR. And then probably Farpoint, but Farpoint's made me sick in the past, so maybe not. We'll see. We'll see if I can brave it. Maybe the higher frame rate on PS5 will make it better. Who knows?
All right. Well, I think that marks the end of our show this week. A little bit of a longer one. We had a lot to talk about. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. I'll get up on my soapbox here once again because the numbers are getting pretty high, and say, hey, stay inside. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to, which I understand is definitely like that kind of thing is different from person to person, but still, be good to your fellow man, stay inside, wear a mask, wash your hands, all the good stuff, especially if you're in the US. But in other parts of the world too, the virus is not going to leave us alone anytime soon. And while stuff about a vaccine so far is pretty encouraging, we still have to sort of wait and see if that goes through properly and everything. So it's going to be a little while longer until the vaccine is ready. So until then, stay inside, help out your fellow man, and yeah. With that, Sawyer, would you rattle off the social medias and other platforms for us, please?
Sure. So you can find us on Twitter at Cascade, at CISTCATE, because of our old handle, but you can find us just by searching for the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. And you can find us on Instagram at the Lab Rats Podcast. If you follow us on Twitter, you will get a notification every time a new episode goes live on Podbean. And with that, the show will also go live on every other platform, except sometimes there's some weirdness on YouTube, because it wouldn't be YouTube if there wasn't weirdness with posting. Then you can find our show on Podbean, as well as YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Twitch, and Apple. As well as, if you would like to see us on there, I'm looking at trying to get us on the new podcast platform that Audible has. But there's been some weirdness. Luckily, pretty much every other platform we're on is available on the Haslo show. So, nice. And I know if you have an Audible, sometimes you use it through Amazon smart devices. So, like I said, if there's any other platforms you would like us on, please let us know, and I will do my best to try and get us on there.
All right. Yeah, Caleb, did you have anything else you wanted to plug? Anything at all?
Yeah, just stay tuned for the specials we got planned. We got a couple coming.
Yeah, we got some things in the cooker right now.
Oh yeah.
So definitely take a look out for those. Obviously, I think the last thing here is just wanted to mention again, the Game Awards are let me check the days here. So
December 10th.
Yeah, so the Game Awards are going to be Thursday, December 10th, and they will be from 7 to 11 p.m. on in Eastern time. So
How much of a dip do you think the viewership's going to take due to the release date being the same as Cyberpunk?
Uh,
0.
yeah,
People are gonna watch the Game Awards while they play Cyberpunk.
yeah.
That's probably what I'm going to do, actually.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just think I think it's gonna be fine, and I think like it's a lot. I mean, Jeff Keighley is has so much pull that you're actually probably gonna see a lot of people who just don't play video games watching the Game Awards. Kind
Yeah.
of like how people who don't watch a lot of movies watch the Oscars. Like, you know, it's fun, it's kind of just fun to see that kind. Like a lot of people just kind of like that kind of show and want to see what's going on in the industry and stuff like that. So,
Frankly, it's probably going to be the only awards you get this year because
Yeah, really.
yo,
I think
Sonic the Hedgehog for Best Picture. Let's go.
hey,
that
that conversation's coming up. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
mean,
true.
It's going to be best pictures between Bill and Ted, Wonder Woman, Sonic, and Tenet. It's going to be the best
Exactly.
picture noms.
I love it. I love it so much. I mean, didn't they open it to streaming platforms this year? or
Yeah,
something?
but still, there hasn't been much new stuff coming to
That's
streaming
true.
content
It's true.
that are like
Onward's
getting
gonna
Oscar
win.
Yeah, I mean, I can pretty much guarantee that's going to win animated film.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no,
but yeah,
Soul might.
Trolls?
Soul.
Soul.
Oh, I thought you said Trolls. I was like, there is no way Trolls wins. Soul could. I mean, either way, it's going to be Pixar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's gonna
Yeah,
go
well-
to Soul.
I mean, Pixar always sweeps, so except for when Spider-Verse happened.
Yeah. I mean, I know that television is kind of dying out, but I think what would really do the Game Awards some good if they wanted more viewers, get the Game Awards to air on TV, put it on Spike like it used to.
Right.
Do that.
Yes. Do it.
I would
I
agree.
remember, I remember watching the Spike Video Game Awards and seeing the Phantom Pain get announced at the Game Awards on
Really?
Spike. But when it did, it was just called the Phantom Pain, though, not Metal Gear Solid 5. But I remember sitting at my friend's house. I must have been probably 13 or 14 at the time, sitting there being like, "What is this game?" Little did I know, years later, I'd be talking about Metal Gear Solid on a podcast.
Man,
Right.
it's pretty wild.
I got memories of the Spike TV Video Game Awards and their weird marketing strategies. I remember.
There's this great commercial back when back in ye olden days when Kingdom Hearts 2 and Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne were new releases, and there's this clip of like they're talking about SMT Nocturne and Kingdom Hearts 2 as if they're politicians, and they're talking about like healthcare and it's like, honey, Kingdom Hearts 2 screwed us again. Our healthcare premiums are up, and it's like, vote for SMT Nocturne and you'll get better. And it's just like the weirdest commercial you've ever seen. It's so funny. I'll have to look it up because it's a really good Kingdom Hearts 2 SMT Nocturne. It's it's a really good, that old stuff is all really good.
I also just looked it up, and apparently, I didn't even realize this, but the Spike Video Game Awards was also hosted by Jeff Keighley.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that doesn't. I mean, that's like why the Game Awards is a thing right now.
I mean, it's pretty much the same show, except Spike no longer supports it or airs it. That's really the only difference. And it's less cringy. I'm going to have to check out. Oh, of course it's G4. That makes sense. I miss G4 somewhat. At the same time, I also don't ever at all. But
I mean, games journalism is no better than it was back then. So
are we really going to get into that onto that topic now? That's a whole can of worms, though.
No, we're not. We're not. Yeah, I think with that's kind of the end of it. So yeah, catch us if we don't have a show until then, which there definitely
doubt it.
odds that happens. um, you'll be able to catch us reacting to the award show, and there are probably going to be some really cool announcements and stuff there. So yeah, be on the lookout for that.
Well, and we should clarify also, in case anybody's worried, Ahmad is fine. He's still part of the show. He's just quite busy. So
Yep.
Yeah,
there's no reason why he hasn't no ill reason why he hasn't been on here. He doesn't have COVID. He's fine. He's just busy.
yeah.
So shout out to Ahmad if you're listening. We know you're not dead. So
Yeah.
come on again soon.
Thankfully, we do have the knowledge that in fact he is not dead.
Yeah.
He is quite fine.
He
So
is alive, which is
no,
good.
no need to worry. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to have him back before the year is up.
Yeah. Possibly
But
for
we
the Game
just-
Awards.
Yeah, but
It's always good to have him on the Game Awards because he's an outsider on it. So he can be
just,
like,
he just has no idea what's going on, which is
I
a
mean, that's
great,
kinda
which is
like
a
what's
great
the-
centering feeling. I think is like, oh yeah, none of this really matters, does it?
I mean, this might be the first year where I actually watch the Oscars just because it's not going to matter at all. It's just
Yeah.
Sonic. Yeah. A
Hey,
movie
if
I
Sonic
didn't
wins
see.
Best Picture, I'm gonna be so happy.
My money is on I want Bloodshot to win.
Oh,
I-
man.
No.
I
don't
would
think
be,
that's
I
fair.
would actually jump out of my chair if Bloodshot won Best
Can you
Picture.
imagine a Vin Diesel like Best Picture
man.
winning like
Oh, it'd
speech?
be so good. So
There's
good.
nothing I want more than Vin Diesel at the Oscars accepting an award. I want to see.
And
I don't
then he
care what the award
announces
is.
Fast and Furious Crossroads, the movie.
they take the cutscenes from the game.
Yeah.
and turn it into a movie.
He'd be like, I love movies.
I love. Why does he sound like Trump?
I don't know. That was a bad impression.
Oh man. Oh no. Oh man.
He'd
I'm
be
getting,
like-
I'm getting more flashbacks to the Game Awards last year.
Or to Ken?
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
trying to
man,
get to.
We are a year out from that, and I remember it like
Yeah,
my sister was shot yesterday. Like I am still like fuming about it.
like you
Good
know,
Lord.
I remember all of our reactions in that room when that happened, quite distinctly.
I just absolutely deflated into my seat. I was like, "There's no way this is happening right now."
Man, I get
So
that
hopefully
was
it's a better show. I mean, last year's Game Awards was a real like it was not up to par.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go out and say that.
I mean, it's not an award show if there's not at least some cringe moments.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's
cringe
kind of every award.
moments. Cringe moments are there, but the whole show felt like kind of underwhelming. Even though we got like Xbox and PS5 stuff.
No, I mean, that's when they first debuted what the Series X was called and looked like.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, and it's gonna be our first Game Awards where Reggie isn't there. I think. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. No Reggie, and Sean Layden's gone too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's
Well,
gonna
at
be
least we
Doug
still have Phil.
Bowser and Jim Ryan.
At least we still got Phil.
Yeah, Phil's still there. Phil's immortal. He's just gonna be there for the rest of his life.
I saw this photo. Speaking of that, made me sad. It was a photo of, I think it was either a Game Award show or an E3, and it was Sean Layden, Phil Spencer, and Reggie.
That was a
Oh.
Game Awards show. Yeah, that
Like,
that was like
icons.
their big moment. Like we're coming together and celebrating video games and differences aside, kind of thing. And that I always thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
the best moment of the show, and it had nothing to do with the awards.
just these cool people standing on stage that
Yeah.
only Jeff Keighley could bring together.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's the end of our show, guys.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well,
it was a long one.
Yes.
Definitely. All right, with that, bye.
Bye.
Bye.